Come with us if you dare into a twilight world of unspeakable horror.
You must die. Everybody must die.
Sample, if you dare, the deadly passion of
Podcast.
Radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics.
Clench your jewels and hang on for your life.
Welcome back to the dungeon, me minions. Hauntcast is a radio for haunters and Halloween fanatics, oozing with haunt tips, tricks, tactics, news reviews, how-tos, interviews, and lots of booze. Let's welcome in the new leader of the alt-fright, our G-host, Baker.
Hey Scully, crank up the hurdy-gurdy while I strap on my miniature little fez hat and dance around like a baboon for your amusement. I'm your G-host and dancing monkey, Baker, accompanied by my belligerent brain-damaged bundle of bones, Scully.
Hey, I resemble that remark.
Hey Scully, I haven't seen you around in a couple of weeks. How'd you end up celebrating St. Patty's Day?
I carved pumpkins.
On St. Patty's Day, you carved pumpkins.
Jack-o'-lanterns. Sounds Irish enough to me.
You know, Scully, I hate to say this, but you're right. Ireland is the origin. Now that the 2019 Trans World Haunt Show is over and spring has sprung, it's time to buy some supplies, open up your workshops, stock up your coolers, and get the build season underway. Now, with further ado, let's welcome in our gang of Gong Show rejects, the Scream Team. He has more ticks than a hound dog running through a meadow. Retortician Revenant regales us with theater of the mind. Morbid Mariah spins her woven looms and quietly awaits to trap you in the darkest web. Now identifying as a petite black female, Janiqua Thunder will review Piercing, The Man Who Shot Hitler and the Bigfoot, and Us. When he started haunting, Microsoft was only an insult used by women for their ex-husband's genitalia. Wick Ed Gannon provides something wicked. As Revenant has fallen down on the job time and time again, Jeff Doan from the Dead Zone Scream Park jumps in and joins the Scream Team to take over News from Beyond. A decision he will very soon regret. The black market will be open for business as artist/owner Kyle Thompson of Midnight Studios Effects shines some moonlight on his outstanding props, masks, and creature suits. I will take a bite out of the Rotten Apple 907 haunt as Melissa Thompson, Preston, and Diane Meyer peel off the outer skin to reveal the inner core of their 29-year-old home haunt. Now guys, if you want Hauntcast to continue to sling out shows every other month, please sub up and subscribe at subscribestar.com/Hauntcast. You can also support us at patreon.com or on PayPal. If you'd like to use PayPal, our account is chris@hauntcast.net. Just select the reoccurring payment option. If you'd like to qualify for monthly prizes, choose the $10 a month or more option. We're trying to get away from Patreon as their fees are going up in May, so we prefer either Subscribestar or PayPal. If you haven't stepped up, throw at least $2 a month into the tip jar. $10 a month will qualify you for monthly prizes. Speaking of that, stick around to the end of the show as Scully will dip his stinky pinkies into the cauldron and draw out names for the March and April prize winners. We are giving away copies of Freaky and Eerie, Florida from author and long-term minion Mark Muncy, as well as DC Props and Terror Syndicate prop building books. Also, if we can continue to keep the subs coming in, I do have a couple of tutorial videos in the can.
Just the way you like it, Baker. In the can.
Zip it, Chowderhead. Anyway, I do have a couple of tutorials that I have not released that I will be making available to supporters only. All right, punksters, let's pile into the mosh pit and slam dance to the riotous ruckus of Radon. And my interview with Melissa, Preston, and Diane of the Rotten Apple 907 Haunt is dead ahead.
Demon Lover.
Friday night, the lights are out, you're coming here, your friends are gone, and I'm not here deciding whether I should call some, cut my shit and head back home, 'cause I can't take this fight. Whoa, I've got that feeling in my head, another shot will make it that much worse. Whoa, I'd be much better off alone. I can check your demon over Demon, demon, whoa, whoa, whoa. Demon, demon, whoa, whoa, whoa. Someday I'm at your house, your head's a million miles away. I'm wanted and I'm thinking I really need to kill some. I got my shit and head back home. Whatever it was I'm thinking. I've got that feeling in my head. Another shot will make it that much worse. Whoa, I'd be much better than before. I can shake your demon never curse. Demon, demon, whoa, whoa, whoa. Demon, demon, whoa, whoa, whoa. Demon, demon, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Every year, tens of millions of people flock to Florida for its sunny beaches and world-famous tourist attractions. Most never learn about the strange and unusual locations just off the beaten path. From the UFOs of Gulf Breeze to Robert the Haunted Doll in Key West, learn about the myths, monsters, and legends from the dark side of the Sunshine State with author Mark Muncy and illustrator Carrie Schultz in their books Eerie Florida and Freaky Florida from the History Press. Find them at eerieflorida.com or wherever books are sold.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program to bring you a special bulletin.
Hauntcast News.
I'm Jeff Doan of Dead Zone Scream Park, Escape Reality Denver, and the Frightmare Compound, and this is News from Beyond. The road from recovery after Transworld is always a tough one. Being in the industry since the age of 14 at haunts across the U.S., it's always nice to catch up with all my friends and grab a drink at Transworld. Normally what this means is being out till 4:30, 5 in the morning, then waking up to be on the show floor by 10 a.m. Sobering up on the show floor, I always make my way to every booth to see all the unique new products they have to offer. This year's trade show layout was the largest to date. It not only featured haunted house and escape room products, but also a brand new Christmas trade show floor. Through walking the show floor, it's very apparent that haunted attractions are seeking other additional sources of income, from doing seasonal-based events such as Christmas attractions, themed haunted attractions throughout the year, and now even escape rooms. Add-on and upcharge items for guests were also largely represented on the show floor this year, allowing attractions to provide upsales for guests while they wait in these long queue lines. As an attraction owner, I really like the concept of these various games to play in line with your guest, ranging all the way from axe throwing to virtual reality, 5-minute escape rooms, anything to make that time go by faster while they wait, as well as add to the overall experience that guest has. It's like giving a thing of crayons to a kid at a restaurant while they wait for dinner. Not only is that kid going to complain less, not throw a fit, and be more entertained, but they're also going to have fun. And that is the whole point of what we do as an industry, is entertain people. Transworld is also unique because by going year after year, you begin to recognize trends within the industry. While escape rooms are definitely on the up and up, zombie paintball, on the other hand, is completely dead. In comparison to 3 years ago when zombie paintball products were all over the show floor, this year only a handful of vendors remained. After speaking with various attraction owners, it appears cost, safety, and insurance have all put an end to the zombie paintball epidemic. Quite frankly, it's more expensive to run than a haunted house. Which leads us to the rise of the escape rooms. Escape rooms have taken our seasonal industry and given us life in the off-season. The capability of running an attraction that is only 1 or 2 rooms has definitely gained the interest of a lot of haunted house owners, designers, and builders. Also, most escape rooms use very minimal staff compared to most haunted attractions. While a lot of haunted attractions feature escape rooms on site during their off-season as an additional source of income, or in their queue lines as a shortened experience during their season, some escape room owners are even now leaving the haunted attraction industry to pursue just escape rooms alone. With escape rooms now being a part of the show for several years, I feel that they've laid a foundation and don't plan to see them go anywhere anytime soon. With that being said, the ultimate question is, what's next? I personally believe it could be VR, virtual reality. Gone are the days, the 80s and 90s cheesy VR headsets which you wear, looking like you're a part of Johnny Quest. New VR technology can actually be quite immersive, and has actually caught the eye of several theme parks, such as Knott's Scary Farm, which used it in its 2017 season. Even now, studios are beginning to use this technology to promote films and TV shows at events such as South by Southwest, where they allow guests to step into their favorite movies or TV shows and live out an experience. Imagine being able to allow your guests to experience and interact with a pre-show before ever stepping foot in your haunt. Not only would it set the tone of your attraction, but it would also provide the ability of continuity. Too many times does an animatronic break, an actor sick, or even the issue with having a guest ruin the experience for other guests. Through VR, you'd be able to make sure that guests were able to have a 360-degree experience that occurred exactly the same for every guest. The days of grape eyeballs and spaghetti guts are gone, and technology is now a major part of our industry. From home haunters building their own animatronics to using CNC machines to create entire sets and props, to electronic and computer-based Raspberry Pi puzzles for escape rooms, our industry is continuing to grow and move forward, and I, for one, am excited to see what comes next.
Step right up and get your products over here.
The black market.
Joining me in the black market is the owner of Midnight Studios Effects, Kyle Thompson. What's up, Kyle?
Hello, how are you?
Hey, look, I'm not only a fan, but I'm also a customer. I think over the last number of years, I've purchased the Fawn, your Timberwolf, the Trick or Treat, and that little crazy brain crab creature thing, and. So,
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you know,
supporting the studio.
Now I'm just a home haunter, but if I owned a pro haunt, I'd have a larger selection of your wares all over my.
I am too. I'm a backyard haunter.
Oh, cool.
I do jack-o'-lanterns in the front, and I do my favorite sets from Disneyland in the back. Built some cool things for my daughter over the last 7 years here.
Now you're out in Scottsdale?
My new shop is in Scottsdale at the Pavilions Entertainment District, and I live about 10 minutes east of there in Mesa.
Now, the details from the products that not only what I've seen at Transworld, but just the stuff I personally own. The details of your props are phenomenal. The quality is amazing. Because I purchased the Timberwolf and the Fawn about 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm rocking those out in my front yard pretty much all through the month of October. And the weather's not easy up here on the props, but I've had them up here, and they haven't cracked. The paint still looks great, and the mechanism on the Timberwolf still works flawlessly. I'm impressed.
Awesome. Very glad to hear that.
Yeah.
The Timberwolf's one of my favorites. Doing a little more collaboration with another artist on a larger version of that. But the Timberwolf molds are out. We're actually pouring about 6 or 8 castings of those as we speak. It's just a very simple plug-and-play design that I, thought people would enjoy and try to get it across for a decent price. And so it's a Dayton lifetime warranty gear shaft motor, and it's got a 300-watt sound system in it. I don't know if yours had sound or not.
No, mine just had
a sound option.
Yeah, I didn't go for I don't know if it was available when I purchased it. Maybe it was. I didn't even know, so I didn't opt for it.
Yeah, pieces are constantly evolving. We're always trying to figure out ways to put more features and more things on them to make them better.
Yeah, because that was
the goal.
Now, can you animate, or is it an option to pretty much get any one of your statues or props animated, or is it only like certain items that have the option for animation?
I think a big majority of them, yes, because we're a custom shop, so we're trying to cater to creative people. So when somebody has something in mind and they want something to headpan or tilt or blow fog or silicone LED eyes or blinking eyes or whatnot, and we try to, I like to talk to the customers on the telephone and see exactly what these are being used for, where they're going, and what the application is, so that, while we're pouring the molds and we're building them to order, we might as well, have the option to customize them. I think that's only fair.
Yeah, I've noticed that with some companies, it's just you just go on the website and you can either select it animated or static, and you click checkout, and that's pretty much it. Where I've noticed, especially on your website, that option.
Yeah, I don't have an add to cart at all.
Yeah, there's no cart. You just usually it's like call, place the order, and I've had that same experience where I talked to you or one of your staff and kind of went over some of the details of what I was using it for and whatnot.
Right. And that is due to workload. And we are a smaller boutique. There's 7 people working here now, but in the beginning, it was 2 or 3. And so our workload became overwhelming, I'd say, in 10, 11, things changed with the studio, and Transworld was receiving it well, and we were getting a lot larger orders. Instead of, a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 order, we were getting 20s and 30s. So a lot of things had to change. And, I just can't, there's only so much time in the day. So I'd like to talk to the people and let them know where our workload is and to expect, what time frame to expect and whatnot.
Do you have any downtime at the shop, or is it pretty much just constant because you're probably...
It's crazy.
Yeah.
This business has turned into a monster. It really has.
Ba-dum-bum.
I sculpt for myself, so I sculpt things that I love, and I don't really need to be the best sculptor or painter, although I'm constantly learning, and, I'll never stop learning. It's just this endless thing that you just keep studying, better anatomy, more cutting edge effects, and just trying to really bring cutting edge effects offered to the haunt and the theme park industry. And so it's just a never ending learning process. And so I sculpt for myself, and I take the pieces that I love to the show, and if the buyers and other haunters and parks connect with that, then my job is done. And then I kind of feed off the feedback and come back to the shop and decide, what we're going to make. But we cater to so many themes that it's endless. It goes all the way from mythology to, modern cutting edge Hollywood effects is what I try to do. And I could go a lot darker. I really could be a lot darker, but I grew up very close to Disneyland. I have this huge love for Disneya and Disney and Halloween, and I try to marry Disney with Halloween and kind of mix that with, the golden era of practical effects through the 80s and 90s, which I loved ever since I was a kid. So I kind of marry those attributes together and do the best I can. And I'm glad that it's, been received fairly well over the years. Very lucky, very fortunate, and I thank my lucky stars that people really like the style that I put into it, because, it's at the end of the day, it's just a pumpkin monster. It's just an alien, or it's just a werewolf, but it's how you style it is what it really is in the end.
Yeah, because you have
tons of people that make werewolves, tons of people that make aliens, pumpkin monsters, goblins, everything in between, but it's the style that you put into it that really, gets noticed, I think.
Yeah. You have, like you say, you have everything from mummies, lycans, vampires, goblins, zombies, witches.
Oh, man. And it just keeps going on and on. My brain's like a waterfall of ideas, too, and it's like I can't really sketch them all out in clay as quickly as I would like to, but I have tons of new ideas. They're always coming in, and there's all these boogies that I would like to get out and introduce out there. And I have to thank my friend Jordy Shell and Jonathan Fuller and Ed Edmonds of Distortions Unlimited, because that is basically, and of course Jeff Studios. Jeff Kime, Ed Edmonds, John Fuller, and Jordy Shell is kind of what has spawned Midnight Studios effects.
You mean they inspired you, or you've kind of...
Well, yeah, I'm basically a hybrid of those artists. The first time I ever got my hands on a horror prop, it was a Distortions Unlimited prop, and I was about 10 or 11 years old, so it was quite a while ago. I'm 42.
How did you cut your teeth on the, like, how did you, obviously you dove in at some point and started sculpting or whatever, so how old were you?
I did. So I was a musician at first. I played music ever since I was 14. I was a drummer and bass player, and then I went off to playing guitars. I played in metal and punk rock bands, and I always dabbled in effects and scrap building stuff when I was really young. And then that turned into, when I was older and I was doing a lot of music work, I would also get hired to do beauty makeup on set. So I was doing a lot of on-set makeup. Then I started molding actors and actresses, learning alginate and body double. And then it got into spraying blood with fire extinguishers and doing air mortars and lots of blood and gore, and creating severed heads and simple effects for some independent films. And I went to Los Angeles and actually met Jordy Shell and just started to really get interested in sculpting Disney clay. So when I saw what was happening with water clay, I just really became obsessed almost with Laguna clay and just started to see what I could do. I sold the first couple pieces on eBay. I think this was 03 or 04 is when I first started sculpting water-based clay. And I sold my first piece for $17 or $25 or something. It was a possessed girl and a zombie and a killer clown. Just some things that I thought I would try to sketch out in clay and kind of refine the best I could. And, those pieces sold on eBay. I sold a few copies, and then I kept going. I didn't really show anybody my work for about 2 or 3 years, just kind of kept to myself and tried to practice and hone the craft a little bit. And then I was introduced to Trans World by a guy that I did some Halloween work for that owned some haunted houses in Arizona here. And he took me to my first Trans World show, and he introduced me kind of to that whole industry. And for that show, I created a costume, and that costume was noticed by Haunt World magazine, and I got Costume of the Year that year. And once that happened, I came back with a lot of positive energy, and I started a line of costumes. Started sculpting heads, not only heads, but heads, hands, chest, head, hands, chest, feet, and just started really attacking like an approach for costumes. And I wanted to make some really cool creature suits. And from there, it just got even crazier. I just started sculpting legs and arms and start to see what I could do as far as some flat back figures and welding some frames and dropping frames and fiberglass molds and pulling out flat back creatures. And I created a line for Transworld, and it took off pretty good after about 3 years. It takes you a little while to find your niche in the industry and kind of especially show the clients that you'll deliver. That's a big concern of a lot of these companies. They can take something really nice to the show, but will they deliver on time? Will they meet deadlines? There's one thing about being a good artist. There's another thing about being a good businessman and doing what you say you're going to do for people. So you got to kind of really take both of those very seriously. And that's what I do. And I do 100% live this stuff. I mean, it is a massive part of my life.
I would imagine, especially based on the scope of, between, like,
there's a big body of work.
Yeah, it definitely.
There's a huge body of work. I mean,
how many can you realistically? How many new pieces can you add in a given year?
About 40.
Really?
40 to 50. Yeah. I do as much sculpting as I can. I acquire a mold or two from John Fuller, and I kind of just blend kind of homogenize the whole thing into the line. I utilize the pieces as I feel, they're needed. But we're up to 1,200 molds now. And what's funny is I used to have a really strong database in my mind, and I used to know where everything was and what features or where they were, and all the molds were very organized and labeled at about 750, 800 molds, which is a few years ago. And now that there's 1,200 molds, I'm having difficulty remembering all the designs because there's just so many now. So it's like a hard drive overload. If that makes any sense. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, think about if you had 1,200 molds, like where would you even begin to? I mean, we try to alphabetize them and organize them from like popularity to themes and everything else, but it's just overwhelming when you have that many molds. So I'm trying to retire about 20 or 30 of them here and there every couple of years, as I'm creating now about 20 or 30 more. So I'm trying to find this happy spot where we can
you're
keep it organized.
You're doing some really extremely large creatures now, and I mean, I don't know if I've just seen a couple of them, especially at some of the Transworld video I watched this year. What's the largest piece that you offer now?
Well, the very line of like my super creatures that we call them, they're everything over 8 feet. So I mean, we offer them 8, 9, 10, and even 11 and 12 if someone wants something super tall. I mean, we generally don't go over about 12 feet.
Is that for shipping?
Because shipping, and it's just, I think the intimacy of the creature's face and teeth in his presence should be, within 8 or 9 feet. I think after 10 foot, it's just this huge, kind of far set photo op. But I mean, not to say that we're not going to do anything huge, but I think the creatures that we're building are a nice size, and we're trying to keep them right about 8, 9 feet. I think it's fair.
What are some
any bigger than that? I mean, these molds get huge.
I can imagine.
So, yeah, and they're fiberglass, and that's fine. I'm not doing massive stone molds anymore like we used to. We're doing a lot of fiberglass and silicone molds now, but still, I mean, these things take up a lot of room, and they're massive. And the more you have, you're going to need. Now I got a 10,000 square foot shop, but it's going to fill up fast if we keep adding, these massive jacuzzi sized molds.
you have some new things that you're offering now outside of some of the, a little something different from what you've been offering in the past.
Just making some props that I think that the industry needs. Like, I love Universal monsters. I love Frankenstein. I think there needed to be like a cutting edge version of a modern monster. And so I'm elaborating like on some lab stuff, some realism, doing a lot of life casts and clay pours and resculpts to sculpt the emaciation, sculpt the stitches and the autopsy and the gore and everything. And kind of just incorporating a lot of life molds into some of our new stuff. But I'm also, I'm really excited about this idea of I'm going to attack costumes again here in the next few months. And I'm going to create a whole new line of costumes, at least 6 or 8 new costumes. And then I'm going to give people the opportunity to mix match heads, hands, themes, bodies, and kind of build their own suits off of our molds, so that we can kind of create some new stuff, ideas from the clients. And I want to do the same with super creatures. I want to have a build your own super creature where they can pick out of like 9 or 10 heads, about 3 or 4 bodies, different sets of arms, add horns, add wings, add a tail, and then add your theme. We can do like Arctic themes, lava demons, swampy, gory, ghostly, a selection of maybe 9 themes that we can choose, and then we'll go to features, and we can choose whether we want it to be an interactive puppet, a motorized effect, a pneumatic air-driven prop, or a photo op. And I think that would be a really cool thing where people can kind of design and create themselves. Because a lot of people I do work for are creative people themselves. And I think that's important to let them kind of have some fun as well, Yeah, so that's something I've been working on there.
Now, you can take on custom jobs, but it must be complicated because of everything else you have going on to like take the time to do something custom for someone.
I love doing custom work because it actually brings a whole new, fresh idea to the shop. It's just like, let's say I'm collaborating a sculpture with Jordu or even Jonathan Fuller. If they came out here and maybe I started something or they started something and then I tweaked it, and we're getting something that not one of us could have done. You know what I mean? It's going to be something totally kind of new. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. Like let's say if I started a sculpture's form and John kind of worked on it a little bit, or Jordu or whatever artist I felt, I'd be in collaboration with over here sculpting. I think it's really neat that we can take something and take it out of one person's mind and then bring another mind into it, and it'll create something that neither one of us could have done alone, but this kind of newborn creature. Does that make any sense at all? Hopefully it does. I just think it's cool because it'd be something that I couldn't have created or they couldn't have created, so it's something that kind of was born off of 2 people's ideas. That's kind of the same thing with doing custom commissions. Like someone brings an idea to me and I build it, but it actually didn't come from my sole idea, and we build this really neat thing. I love that. There's something about that that's just really cool.
If somebody has a custom job they come to you with, is it like when you make it for them, it's only for them and cannot be reproduced or sold, like put on your site? Or do you have kind of an agreement with them that like, hey, yeah, we can do this for you. I can give you a little bit of a better price if I can, offer this in my selection of other, other props?
Of course, yeah, that's something that's always done like on a basis to basis, project. Something that we agree on and talk about. Usually if someone wants to commission me to sculpt something and it's something large for, a very upscale haunt or a theme park, I agree that it should be theirs that first year. It should be exclusive for them the first year, and then I can introduce it maybe the next year. But I do like to keep the rights to all the creatures, of course.
Mm-hmm. Besides from Transworld, are there any other cons or trade shows that you do over the course of the year?
I do Monsterpalooza in Pasadena, California. It's more of a relaxed show, and awesome atmosphere with the best of the best Hollywood effects artists in one room, and I think it's a very important show to do. It's very inspirational, and a lot of my friends are there, and I have a great time at the show. I don't approach that show with like the idea of I'm going to go there and take over the world and sell all this stuff. I kind of go there with a lot more of a relaxed mindset where I'm going to show some of my higher end work. I'm going to really focus on paint and hair punching and eyes and details and make these pieces really nice and try to let myself slow down from the whole trans world hustle. See, Transworld's more of an intense business show where I'm building a ton of stuff for a ton of different people, writing 200 invoices. And Monsterpalooza, I feel, is really good for me. I feel it's where I can kind of drink a couple beers, have a glass of wine at the booth, still do business and meet people and network, but I'm slowing everything down and I'm focusing on quality over quantity. And I think that's really a nice thing for me to get there and kind of, I sit at the booth and I can paint and I can relax, I can do art, tunnel vision in and focus and like really kind of hone in on making a really nice piece. And not that I don't make nice pieces for Transworld, because I do, but it's like Monsterpalooza is a lot more relaxed atmosphere, and I can kind of focus on the art just a little bit more instead of the business aspect.
That's usually in April, isn't it?
Yeah, it's coming up in 2 weeks. So you've got, and that's going to be my 13th Monsterpalooza show too. So I mean, when I say I live this stuff, I mean I've been going to both of the shows for the last 13 years. I don't know if you know what kind of hustle that is, but it's pretty intense. You know, I come back pretty beat up and tired, and I got a couple days I can rest. I can go to like a health spa, which I just got back from, and just kind of unwind for a day or two, but then I got to gear up and I got to really push forward on some really nice pieces to represent us, you know, in Los Angeles, where the epicenter of, you know, what we love dwells. You know, those artists in LA that have been working on all these films that we love are seasoned artists, you know, 35-year veterans. And for me to even be in the same room and have my stuff hold up it's a really awesome feeling, you know, to be able to take some puppets and entertain and take some nice pieces that I spent time on and show them without like having to write like a ton of invoices. You know, it's more of a relaxed show. There's a lot of different people there. You never know who's walking around though. It could be all the way from home haunter, Halloween enthusiasts to people that have never seen anything up close and personal like that before, and they're just being introduced to, you know, practical effects and pieces and displays like what we bring. And then there's also, you know, aspiring filmmakers that have greenlit budgets that are ready to work on a film and want to hire me to do a creature suit. So it's got this wide range of clients.
Now, did I see on
Have you been?
I have not. I talked
you got to get out.
A couple of years ago. I talked to my buddy who works with me on the podcast, and I said, "Hey, how about we not go to Transworld? We'll do something different. Maybe we'll hit Monsterpalooza." And we said we both were on. You know, we were like, "Yeah, let's do that," and we still haven't done it.
And it's a rad show. I have a great time every year. Elliot Brodsky, the guy that puts it on, his son Jack, they're amazing. They know what they're doing. They organize a great show, and I highly recommend you go. There's not another show like it in the world. So, or I haven't been to a show quite like that ever. I mean, it's just
so if you want to get your monster on, that's where you go.
Yes.
Now
they set up a really nice museum there, and it's just a great show all the way around. You know, it's like I said, there's nothing else like it.
Now, did I see that you have internships available for people if you're out in the Scottsdale area? Was that right? Or
I did. I actually found two really awesome helpers in there. They're actually here right now pouring castings and mixing foam.
Okay.
And I do need a girl to help with herring werewolf suits and stylizing and doing some finishing work and theming and stuff like that. So I haven't found her yet. But we're looking for a girl that wants to take creature stylizing, hair punching, hand laying, eyelashes, fingernails, dental work, learning different style techniques that we do in finishing work and sealing and glossing, and then possibly answering phones a little bit, maybe writing an invoice here or there. And I'm looking for that person still, but I haven't quite found her.
All right, so if you're listening, if that's you out there, contact. How would somebody contact you? Do they just contact you through the website or direct email?
Yeah, they can contact me through the Facebook, Midnight Studios Effects on Facebook, my cell number, or email, midnightstudioseffects@yahoo.com.
Anything else you want to plug or promote?
No, not that I can think of. Just I'm glad that everyone's, been happy with what we've brought to the show so far, and doing my best to keep up with the workload, but it is heavy. And our new shop is at Scottsdale Talking Stick Entertainment Plaza. It's called the Scottsdale Pavilions, and we are about 70% moved in. We have split the building into different departments. We have our metal workshop, our casting and foaming area. We have our finishing room. We have a costume department. And we have a really beautiful front desk with a 4,000 square foot showroom surrounding it. And I'm trying to fill that up as we speak with animations, and some of our nicest stuff will be in that showroom.
All right. Well, hey, congratulations on all the success. It's well deserved.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Awesome. Love your stuff. And if you have not ever seen, if you're listening to this and you've never heard of Midnight Studios Effects or seen their work, then take your hand, reach it up, slap yourself across the face, and get with the program. Wow, and go check it out. They can catch it at Facebook, Midnight Studios Effects on Facebook, Midnight Studios.
You're an animal.
FX.com, and anywhere else you want, Instagram or any of the other things?
Yeah, we're on Instagram as well. Yeah, Midnight_Effects, I believe. Zach Walsh is in charge. I'm not too big on my social media. I pop on there here and there to update some pictures, and that's about it. You won't hear from me much. Right. I'm more of a in the shop, hands-on guy.
Yeah, because that's for people who have too much time on their hands, and you obviously do not. So, man, I don't want to tie you up any further.
I appreciate all the kind words, and it's really nice of you that you have, offered me this opportunity to talk about the studio on here. So it was really good chatting with you. I appreciate everything, and I will talk with you later.
Awesome, Kyle. Thanks.
Theater of the Mind.
The Transworld Haunt and Attractions trade show this year was, as usual, an awesome time. Chris Baker couldn't come this year, which was unfortunate, but Johnny Thunder and I still had a great time and didn't have to worry about getting kicked out of any restaurants for anything vomit-related. Our good friends, the brothers Dolashal, were there with the amazing mystery bottomless backpack of beers, and it was great to see Rob and Stacy from Necrotic Creations again after last year's hiatus. I chatted with a few vendors I've come to know, and the word was pretty unanimous that sales were back up after the past few years' slump. Good times aplenty, and the weekend was over much too soon. I had a chance there to chat briefly with Ed Teribas, head honcho of the Erebus Haunted Attraction in Pontiac, Michigan, who had graciously given me a lights-on backstage tour of the haunt several years ago. I've talked about Erebus before in previous segments, and marveled about how it's basically a pro haunt with a home haunter's approach. It's one of the few large-scale pro haunts where they make their own props. They take great pride in their creations and can rest assured that people will not go through noticing and identifying multiple props that they've already seen in other haunts. And there's just that great feeling that comes from the creative process, starting with an idea and seeing it gradually take shape and come to life. Home haunters do buy cool props, either because the artistry is out of their creative league or because they just don't have the time to put into building something. Unfortunately, some of us do have things like jobs we must go to, but I don't think I'm being presumptuous to think that if we had the unlimited time available, most of us would like to build the majority of our sets and props from scratch. This whole haunting thing, this madness we gleefully succumb to, is born out of love for expression through the creative process. And admit it, sometimes you just fall in love with something that you're building. You find yourself investing far more care and time into it than is necessary, lovingly detailing and refining it far beyond the point that any observer would notice at all. I think of this as the Pygmalion effect. If you're not familiar with the story, Pygmalion was a character in Greek mythology, a sculptor on the Isle of Cyprus, who was a disciple of Aphrodite, the goddess of love. He sought to make the ultimate statue of the goddess, so after making 100 or so test pieces from clay, he secured a block of the finest marble and went to work. He toiled day and night endlessly, and as the figure took form, he lovingly imbued it with the finest detailing of any statue he'd ever made, and this indescribably beautiful woman taking shape became the center of his universe. He named her Galatea, and gradually fell in love with her, and despaired knowing that she, being made of marble, could never return his love. When the festival day of Aphrodite came around, Pygmalion made his dedication and prayed to the goddess that if he could not find a bride who was as beautiful as his creation, he wanted to kiss Galatea and be turned to marble as well, so the two would be forever locked in eternal embrace. Aphrodite was deeply moved by the intensity of his affection, but, as the goddess of love, was a little more down with the passion of the warmer human variety, so when Pygmalion embraced his beloved Galatea, he felt her warm up and soften and become a real flesh-and-blood woman in his arms. The goddess herself officiated over their wedding, and the happy couple settled down and had a daughter and lived happily ever after, which is really quite an accomplishment in both Roman and Greek mythology, which is usually chock full of tragedy and despair and horrible death. If he'd been able to break the fourth wall like Deadpool and see how much better he had it than all the characters in those other stories, he'd have been able to appreciate how truly lucky they really were. The idea of a man-made creation coming to life is an ancient concept existing in the mythologies and folklore of countless societies in human history. Many, however, are not always as happy as the tale of Pygmalion and Galatea, and often have tragic results. In Hebrew folklore, for example, we find stories of the golem, humanoid slaves created by rabbis who follow the path of the Kabbalah, a branch of Jewish mysticism. The golem is formed of clay and given the breath of life, which, in the tales, is usually bound to it by a sacred inscription on its forehead or on a scroll inserted into its mouth or hung around its neck. The creature could be formed for the purpose of domestic duties or manual labor, or, in the most famous tale of the Golem of Prague, as a sort of military sentry bot to defend the community from anti-Semitic attacks. In that tale, as the imbued life force continued to take hold on the once stupid and obedient creature, it gradually grew in strength and self-awareness, eventually becoming unstable and violent, threatening and attacking the very people it was charged to protect. Fortunately, its creator was able to wrest the scroll with the sacred words of binding from the golem's mouth, breaking the bond that sealed the life force within the clay, and the creature collapsed into rubble. According to legend, the chunks were not scattered or destroyed, but moved to some hiding place where they lie in wait to be reformed and reanimated if the need should ever arise. If some future mystic ever does find the golem and get it back online, let's hope it reboots back to its original programming and doesn't just pick up where it left off and go on a rampage. Which, come to think of it, would actually make a hell of a movie if it hasn't been done yet. If you're thinking that story of the Golem of Prague sounds a lot like a certain famous book by Mary Shelley, an eventual iconic Universal Pictures movie monster, you're not alone. While there's no evidence that Shelley was influenced by the Jewish legend of the Golem, rather her influences are widely believed to be a combination of her father William Godwin's novels, the Roman poet Ovid's retelling of the Greek myths of Prometheus and Pygmalion, and elements of her own tragic past, it still echoes the morality play elements of the dangers of humans playing God. It could also be seen as a cautionary tale of the potentially tragic effects of social ostracism. Frankenstein's monster is as much of a tragic victim as it is villain, as it begins its new life as a sympathetic creature, hated and shunned by society until it sees its own reflection and realizes how truly hideous it is. At this point, it commits several murders of people it believes responsible for its sorry fate and turns on its creator, demanding Dr. Frankenstein create a bride for it so it will no longer be alone in the world, and threatening to kill everyone he knows and loves until it gets his wish. Haunters and horror fans have a bounty of monsters to choose from. Demons, ghosts, shapeshifters, vampires, the undead. But I've always felt there should be a special category for those creatures I like to call the created. Why? Because they carry a layer of complexity, a subplot if you will, that adds an extra storyline that can function as either an embellishment or the primary plot. The story of the creator. Why did the creator make the creature? What purpose was it made for? Good or evil? And if said beasties are numerous, are they functioning independently or are they coordinated with a shared purpose? And are they still under the maker's control? As is the case with many elements of a haunt's backstory, the tale of the creature's creation may be difficult to put across to the guests without presenting some narration. If the haunter opts to go this route, it's best that the line actor or host condense a very quick, simplified version of the story to the groups before they go through the haunt. It's fine to include extra story details on a plaque or sign, or extra bits of narration or hints dropped by a talking prop, but you should always assume that no one's going to read or listen to that, and that these written or oral extras are simply an added value feature, like the so-called Easter eggs in movies, that may add to a haunt-goer's enjoyment but is not critical to their understanding and enjoyment of the haunt. Hopefully, your scenes, scares, and actors are good enough that people will be entertained whether they really know the backstory or not. As to whether the creations are independent or working together for a common malign purpose, there are ways to suggest coordination even if people haven't been clued into it ahead of time. For example, they enter a doll room, and several dolls move to menace and attack the guests. Okay, that's scary and creepy, but are they working together or are they all just vicious and possessed, each one acting out its own malice? Now, picture it this way. A doll turns its head to look at the guests, then turns its head to look at another doll, which turns its head to make eye contact with the first. Then they both look toward a third doll, which swivels its head to look at both the first and second doll, and then all three of them move their heads in unison to look directly back at the guests. The whole sequence may take 4 or 5 seconds, but it definitely grabs attention, and it speaks volumes about what's going on. They're all working together, and they're all focused on you. A lot of people will be sufficiently freaked out by this simple body language that they won't even need any overtly threatening moves by the dolls to be thoroughly scared by it. Of course, if the dolls all raise knives at this point, it should pretty much seal the deal even for the slowest observer. Coordinated motion suggests coordinated purpose, and props or actors who move in unison toward the guests give an immediately understood sense that the baddies are an organized team with the goal of giving the outsiders a really bad day. The idea of a house full of creatures all created and controlled by a central villain can make for an oppressive, claustrophobic atmosphere because it suggests to the haunt-goers that they've been swallowed and they're in the proverbial belly of the beast, surrounded and trapped by the organs and agents of a single malignant purpose. In this type of storyline, lighting and sound effects or music that would work really well would be dark and foreboding, building a slow burn of tension. However, what if one of the first mangled dead bodies the audience sees is that of the creator? If they've been provided with a visual of the mad doctor or wizard or whoever at the beginning, and see that he or she has been obviously killed by the created, then the idea becomes instantly clear. The created have gone completely off the rails, and there's no one controlling them. Under that scenario, a much more chaotic and deranged atmosphere would work nicely, with layouts, lighting, and soundscapes that enhance the sense of craziness, confusion, and panic. The creatures, no longer under any control, may be faster and behave more randomly. Both scenarios work great. The haunter just needs to decide which atmosphere they want to work for, and then coordinate their visual and sound elements to fit the right atmosphere to that storyline. While the idea of created beings initially brings to mind images of evil dolls, puppets, robots, cyborgs, and voodoo zombies, not all malign creations need to fall into the anthropomorphic category. Many good horror movies and books have been made about outbreaks of other artificial life forms via genetic tampering, mutation, or mechanical self-replication. A containment failure in a bioresearch lab, for example, could result in the facility being overrun with hideous plant and fungal growth, consuming or infecting everyone in contact with it and spreading out of control. These scenarios tap into a fairly recent but widely understood fear of what happens when an alien species is introduced into a new environment with no known controls for it. Ask a southerner about kudzu or Spanish moss. Ask any fisherman what happens if Asian carp, rock snot, or zebra mussels get introduced into a waterway. It's a disaster that's almost impossible to reverse. Now, apply that to a plotline involving an out-of-control bioweapon, a nanotech project, or genetically modified organism, and just go to town with it. Here, we tap into the Lovecraftian endgame of the search for knowledge going too far, and the hapless researchers reaping the nightmare harvest of terrible truths that were better left alone. Alexander Pope wrote long ago that a little learning is a dangerous thing, but 200 years later, Lovecraft let us know that too much learning can be an absolute disaster. Movies from the silence of the 20s to the blockbusters of today have plumbed the dark shadows and darker results of such pursuits taken beyond the limits of ethical responsibility and human control. Ancient mythologies, folklores, and sci-fi and horror literature dating from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, A Modern Prometheus, to the medical and science thrillers of Michael Crichton and Robin Cook all give us a glimpse of the horrors that can be unleashed when man steps beyond his boundaries and chooses to play creator with that most mysterious, awesome, and terrible force of all, life itself. The hazards of playing God with the very essence of life are more relevant now than ever before. With genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, and transhumanism no longer merely the stuff of weird fiction, but the topic of headlines and active research and development taking place even as we speak. Goblins, demons, and monsters of the underworld can be terrifying enough, but sometimes the most terrifying monsters of them all are not born, they are made, and they are made by us. So, Haunters, what are you planning to make? Keep the ghost light burning. From the Theater of the Mind, I'm Revenant, and you're listening to Hotcast.
Hotcast. Racial disobedience.
Welcome to Monster Face. Wanna hear a little story about the war and the glory of one big ugly family living in a bell tower that's full to capacity. There's this Batman and he's got no skeleton and he's got 5 shadows and they're pinning him to the ground. Self-loathing shadows and they're pinning him to the ground. Hey, now I've got facial disobedience. 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 She's out there for revenge. Got hurt once, now she's got hurt again. Doesn't even wanna do it and hates herself for doing it. And she wonders why, the siren wonders why. She has to transfer the shit some more on paid too hard. Flash from one set of shoulders to the next. She can feel the grip of the handle where the knife ends on her neck. And now I've got facial disobedience. And now I've got facial disobedience. And now I've got facial disobedience. And now I've got facial disobedience.
letting a homemade animatronic mechanism break free and injure your haunt guests is the wrong kind of scary.
Purchase your haunt mechanisms from DCProps.com with high-quality craftsmanship, fast turnaround, unique and original designs with superior customer service. DC Props' long-lasting props and mechanisms will scare your haunt guests the right way. Go to DCProps.com for the right kind of scary.
Maniacs who shock women into uncontrolled hysteria, who prey upon the innocence of children.
Shocktails with Johnny Thunder.
I wonder if it isn't all a dream, a nightmare.
His palms are hairy, but his head, not so much. It's our master of ceremonies, Johnny Thunder.
All right, look. I've explained this. I don't know how many times I have to explain this. It's shaved. I'm not bald. Shaved. A hairdo.
It's a life choice. It's a life choice.
Yeah, it's a hairdo. Look, you watch an episode of SpongeBob. There's a whole thing about where shaved. It's a hairdo. So GFY, genius. So what's going on?
I didn't say you were bald. I just said not so much. That's all I was saying.
That's the implication. No, I heard the hate. I'm going to my safe space. So you know what? You can do this segment by yourself.
So you're fresh back from Transworld, and I saw all your pictures. I was perusing your profile on Facebook. You could not have looked happier.
Really? I wonder why.
Now, how many years have we been going to Transworld? I mean, was it like 5 or 6 times that we've gone, or
No, this is like. I don't know, dude. This is like.
Or has it been more than
8,
that?
9? Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I mean it's. Yeah, we've. No, this has been a while. Yeah, this is the first one without you.
I feel bad. I feel bad for the plumbers of St. Louis. They took a huge hit in the pocket this year.
You feel bad for that? Wait. Feel bad for them, dude. I'm the one that got fucked over. I couldn't charge you for babysitting, so.
You didn't need to take your papoose with you this year?
Nah, I took a big dent in my babysitting bill, and then I couldn't, pay for all the extra beer. So.
Yeah. All the urinals were safe this year.
The
clog,
urinals,
no damage.
Urinals, the farm animals, old ladies.
You're cracking my balls, man.
Yeah. So you wanted to be there. Though,
it was a banner year.
You missed it. I mean, you missed it, dude. This was actually probably it's funny. Everybody's like, this is the greatest year ever. I'm like, it is the greatest year ever. And I was like, because that guy's not here. And it was the greatest year ever. You missed it. It was a great show.
I've been dragging you down for too many years.
I know. Well, I'm the wind beneath your wings.
Maybe it's just time to cut me loose,
I think so.
Start up your own podcast. Just take off.
Yeah, well, actually, we've decided we're taking this one over. We're hijacking this one, and you're going to get kicked to the curb. I'm sorry.
Well,
Revenant's getting custody of Scully in the divorce proceedings. So.
Look, as a friend, man, I'm gonna tell you something. You're not funny. I mean, you look funny, but you're not funny, man. That shit is sad.
Let you know.
it is a banner year across the board.
So yeah, we missed you, dude. It would have been fun to have you there this year.
Yeah, well, you had your fun when you get to hang out with the Dole Shawls, right? Yeah, the Carters. You spent quality time with John Cook. Yeah.
Well, hey man, what's going on? Good to see you. Hey dude, what's going on? Yeah, that's what I was actually hesitant to give shout outs to anybody because as soon as I do, there'd be, people I'm forgetting. But yeah, I got to talk to, I saw Revenant for a while, which was good. We saw Robert and Stacy at Necrotic. I got to see Elisa and Sam at Scared of My Shadow. Like I said, I ran into so many people. So like I said, I'm going to forget. And I got to hang out with all the Bates people. So that was cool.
Now, was there anything, regale us with some of your tomfoolery there? Is there anything that you Anything that you did in particular out of the ordinary, or anything particularly funny, amusing, anything like that?
Me?
Yeah,
Never. No. I'm in bed by 7:00. It's fine. Everything's good. Nothing good. No, but you know what was really cool this year? And I actually wish you would have come because this was actually pretty cool. That Vampire Circus. It was the event on Friday night. And I didn't even know that there was this, I think it's like a 1,400 people seat theater in the convention center, which I never knew existed. And it was basically, like someone else described it, sort of Cirque du Soleil meets a haunted attraction. And I had the premiere, I booked the premiere seating. So, but it was sort of like premiere seating, but like general admission. I ended up there. I got there at like 7:15, waited in line. I was down in the 6th row, dead center. And it was, I think, 2 hours. There had like a 10 or 15 minute intermission. It was one of the most amazing performances I've ever seen. Just in terms of, you think, it's like a circus, whatever. But there's, this theme, this framing sequence. They've got some characters that do funny relief, humor relief and so forth. And just the physicality of the performances in terms of whether it's acrobatics or, sort of like the women doing like they're wrapped up in the ribbon, or there was like, I don't know, hula hoop kind of things. Revenant knew the actual circus name for that. I just called them hula hoops, but they're like steel hula hoops. It was amazing. I posted the trailer from I think like 2 years ago that they have up online, but I was blown away. And I think a lot of people had even said that they weren't like, we're not sure what this is. We don't know what this is going to be, but it was amazing. Between, I said, some of the funny sequences, and it was audience interactive and pulling people up on stage and so forth. It was just, the acts themselves, but the costuming and the lighting and the music and everything else was really, really phenomenal. So to me, the highlight of the trip, besides you not being there, was absolutely the Vampire Circus.
Now, was this the first year they've ever done that? I don't recall ever hearing or seeing anything about that before.
Apparently it was, yeah. So I'm hoping they bring it back next year because I really, really dug it. So if anyone ever sees this around you, if it's advertised in your local area, definitely go check it out if you're into haunting at all. Like I say, you don't even have to be into sort of the whole circus aspect, but it was phenomenal.
Is it like some kind of a traveling show?
Yeah. They travel all over the country, so I would definitely, like I said, if it's in your area, check it out.
What did you do Saturday night?
What did I do Saturday night?
Was that good, huh?
What did we do? We went to dinner and drank and hung out. And
you went to the sushi place?
Oh, did we go there on Saturday night?
Yeah.
Was that Saturday night? I think so. I was making friends with the engaged couple next to us. I don't know if Revenant told you about that.
Yeah, he did mention. He said that you're making. He said, yeah, he was making a scene again in the sushi place.
It was awesome.
But you didn't chase anyone out of the bathroom this year.
No. Nobody was horrified by my bathroom antics. But no, these people, they were cool. I was like, let's take a picture. I took a picture. I friended the one. They were, I think, at the medical school or something, and I was interviewing them, and because I was like, are they on your first date? And they spilled water all over the floor, and at that point I'm, I don't know, 7 sakis into the night, so it was fun. We had a good time. Yeah, Saturday was a little chill, but like I said, I think I was up till like 3 a.m, which is always awesome when your shuttle's coming at 8 a.m. the next morning. So
yeah, that's always tough.
But overall, yeah. But you know what I really dug? The floor show seemed. Not that it's ever been small, but the haunted attraction part seemed like maybe it pushed the escape room stuff over a little bit more. Remember how like at one point it seemed like the escape room stuff was a little bit further over and like a little bit more of the space. What I really liked this year was there was, I think, a little bit more spread out for the haunted attraction stuff. And then there was the escape room things, but then also they kind of had that section where, a lot of the property owners and the attraction owners do like the family friendly hay rides. So they'll have the friendlier pumpkin characters and different.
Over to the right when you go in. The family friendly. Also,
Right. But then some of the stuff too was around Easter and stuff like that. And then remember, this is the first year right across from that used to be a wall. It was opened up, and it was a whole section for the Christmas show. Because, again, a lot of the property owners do Christmas stuff now. So there was a whole nother wing to the show this year, which was awesome because once you were in, you just walk right in there, and that was cool. I posted a couple pictures in there. I didn't take too many. You were asking, and a lot of people were saying, like, what's new? Is there anything like completely revolutionary? And I would say no. There was nothing that was like brand new that would just kind of blow you away. But by the same token, everybody that was there brought their A+ game. And there were just a lot of cool props, masks, effects.
Did Pale Knight have anything really cool this year? Any new effect or anything that they were shilling over there?
Again, I don't know that I really noticed anything new or different. Again, like I said, that's not bad because everybody's stuff was completely awesome. Yeah. But overall, it was just a really, really solid show, and there was just a really good vibe this year. And again, I don't know why. Maybe it's because a certain somebody didn't come. But otherwise, everybody seemed to have a really
a coincidence.
Yeah, I noticed that.
I think not.
A really, really good time. It was crazy.
You are such an asshole.
I won't go anymore. I'm obviously bringing everybody down.
Dude, it was nice having my own room. I gotta tell you. I felt like my big brother moved out, and I was like, oh God, I got the whole room to myself.
Pat you didn't invite Pat up to kick off his boots and grind his socks into your pillow or anything like that?
Oh, no, Revenant came by after work and showered in my room, so it was fine. Well, he had to work. I was like, oh, geez, dude. The poor guy had to actually go to work. I was off, so. But, dude, when I landed, I hit up our place at the airport. I had our traditional shot and a beer, and, of course, she talked me into 2 shots and 2 beers. And then I got the.
How did that happen? How did she do that?
She just said, "Do you need anything else?" And I was like, "I'm glad you asked." But it was also cool. They didn't have any shuttles available, so they got me a private cab and they took me down, which was pretty nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Like I said, it seemed everything really, really went my way this year. Again, I don't know what the common denominator is.
Everything's coming up thunder.
Nah, but I miss.
All right, dude, I won't go anymore. Like I say, obviously,
No, I said I miss seeing you because I said it's the only time we ever get to BS and hang out. So
yeah, you never know if I can pull it off. I've been wanting to go down to the Bates, and maybe I can go down opening weekend, like the last. You guys usually are open the last weekend in September, right? So maybe
we
I
usually
can cruise
open
down.
the third. Yeah, the opening weekend's like the third.
Like
Saturday. Yeah. So, if you come, that would be like our second opening weekend. That'd be cool.
Yeah, maybe I can swing that. I'll just ride down on my bike or fly or who knows. Maybe I'll get down there and we can at least, hang out a little bit. I'll go, I've always wanted to go to the Bates. So, I'll have my people contact your people.
Wait. I'm looking at my calendar. It says wash your hair. I'm sorry, I have to wash my hair that weekend.
Well, you're going to be working anyway, so realistically, you don't have to spend time.
It says not working that weekend. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll have to get back to you. I'll have my publicist contact you.
Whatever, I thought.
So anyway, yeah. So it was a cool show. It was good. So
okay.
So what's new with you?
Well, like I said, I didn't go because I took vacation with my kids. We got snowed in. Did I text you this story? What happened? So I get out of work Friday. I'm catching a flight. This was March 1st, so March 2nd.
Yeah.
So that Saturday, I'm supposed to fly out at 10 in the morning. I usually always have the flight scheduled at 7, so we've got to be up at 3 o'clock in the morning. This time, I could actually have slept until maybe 5:30 or so. Then drove into Boston. I was going to meet my kids because both my kids are living in Boston now. I'm going to meet up with them. We're going to fly out of Logan. So I leave work and I'm like, because I was going out of my mind. I hadn't been on vacation 14 months or whatever. So I'm like, yes, I locked the shop. I'm like, yeah, vacation tomorrow, baby. And about 10 minutes later, I get a text that says, flight's canceled. Now, I got wind that a storm was coming in, but I thought it wasn't going to be as bad as it was. JetBlue sent me the text, like, go online and you can change your flight. The website was like basically frozen up. There must have been so many people on there trying to change their flights. Sure. So I get on the phone. I was on hold for 2 hours before I got somebody on from customer service. She's checking around. I'm like, look, is there anything within anywhere in New England I can fly out of? And she's like, no, there's nothing. We can't get you out tomorrow. The best case scenario, we might be able to get you out Sunday night, but maybe it could be Monday. That's not. It was kind of like standby for Sunday night. My vacation starts right now. I am not getting stuck in Massachusetts this entire weekend in a snowstorm. So I contacted my daughter and I was like, Get yourself ready. I said, I'm driving to Boston right now. So I had them actually get a Lyft or an Uber or whatever, and meet me at the Braintree station, which is not quite halfway between me and them. But I met up with them, and they're like, Dad, what are we doing? And I'm like, we're driving to Florida if we have to. They're like, what? And I go, we're driving south. Through Connecticut. When we got to New York, it was about midnight. So I called back and got in touch with a JetBlue person like in 10 minutes. And we're talking. I'm like, all right, where can you get us out of? We're just going to keep driving south. Can you get us out of Philly? She's like, not tomorrow. I go, where can you get us out tomorrow? I go, how about Dulles? She's like, no. She's like, I can get you out of DCA tomorrow at like 11:47. Done. Book it. So we booked the flight. I drove whatever it was, like the 7-8 hours to DC. We got the flight out of DC.
So you're all in the car, all four of you?
Yeah, we got to Maryland. We crossed the Maryland border at about 3:15 a.m. At that point, I was about ready to pass out. So we pulled over to a Holiday Inn Express. We crashed for about 3 hours. Got up.
Wow.
Got to the airport. We had plenty of time, actually. We could have slept in a little bit longer. Got to the airport, flew out, and we were only about 2 hours behind our normal schedule, for what we had planned. Yeah. So we were there in Florida the next day, Saturday, at 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon. And we weren't doing parks or anything that day anyway. So, because I had planned on taking that whole day to just chill and hang out. And the rest of the vacation went great. The kids, I scheduled the kids to fly back to Boston, so they kept the return flight, and I had to fly into D.C., get the car, and take the 8-hour ride back to Cape Cod. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. But I would have rather have done that than been stuck in Massachusetts in a snowstorm for the entire weekend, sitting there pissed off that I was blowing through my entire vacation,
Right.
So,
right.
So yeah, anyway, that was my little story.
Oh, cool story, bro. I'm sorry. What was that? I'm sorry. I faded off.
Can I just edit that out? Should I just edit that out?
I think you should, but I'd leave it in because it's even funnier because I have no idea what you're talking about, but awesome.
Dude, who's sponsoring Shocktails this episode?
I'm drinking booze. I'm going to leave it at that because I'm tired of getting shit from people. So what's...
booze. Yeah, I've heard of that stuff.
And who's responsible for your madness, genius?
I actually, take the time to line up a sponsor, for my foolishness. For my end, this is the only show prep that I've done this time around.
That's more show prep than I did since I didn't send you an outline this month. I was like,
the outline that I never read.
That's why I sort of the past 2 months, I'm like, I'm gonna give up on that, and I'm texting you. Was it yesterday? I'm texting you or Tuesday or whatever. I was like, okay, yeah, maybe this, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, and I was like, okay, he doesn't care, so let's just move on with our lives. We're like old, like I said, we're like Fred and Ethel Mertz at this point. It's just like whatever, we'll get the shit done.
Anyway, so my sponsor is Mamma Mia Pizza Beer. Yeah, who says you need to chew your pizza? This brew actually is made with a whole margarita pizza in the mash and plenty of pizza spices to enhance the flavor. Grab a slice of life with Mamma Mia's pizza beer.
Should we actually do a segment? Because I really prepared nothing this month, but...
Well, you did see a few things, I hope.
Yeah. Well, I read some stuff. I don't know. Should I talk about those, or should I just...
Yeah, no, I think, sure. Do whatever your little thing that is that you did.
Do my little thing.
Go dance around a bit.
I did my little thing in the shower this morning, so I'm all right for right now.
Well, do the other thing that you do. Whatever.
Hey now. Here, wait. Let me do my patented shtick because I want people to be sad.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the last bar on the left. My name, easy for me to say. My name is Johnny Thunder, and I'm serving up Shocktails. All right, let's talk about a couple books that I allegedly read. Although, you know what's funny? I think one of these, I actually talked up before, but I don't remember. So, and nobody listens, so whatever. I'm just going to talk about it. So, a couple books. They're kind of a niche kind of a thing, so I don't know how much widespread interest there may be for these, but the first one is Horror Comics in Black and White, A History and Catalog 1964 to 2004. It's by author Richard J. Arndt from McFarland and Company, and it's just 2 pages shy of 300 pages. So basically it covers all the black and white horror comics from 64 to 2004. So, we're talking about creepy and eerie and a lot of lesser known books. What's really cool about this is they'll go by publisher. And it's kind of like an index. So they'll have every publisher, every title, and they'll go by every issue with a copy of the cover. They'll give you the information about who did the cover art, what the stories are in every issue, who the authors and the artists are, and they'll give you some critique of oh, this is the first appearance of this, or this was blah, 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 or this is the issue where they changed the logo and so forth. So it's kind of cool. I wanted it to have more pictures maybe of the actual books than it did, but it's still pretty cool. So I said, if you're into horror comics and you kind of are into that period, I would check it out. Again, I got this out of the library. I don't buy these things. So it's cool if you're into that thing. The other book was called Hardcore Horror Cinema in the 21st Century by James Aston, again from McFarland. This is 240 pages. So the author starts off with a definition and a critical overview of what hardcore horror cinema is, and then kind of breaks out the key aesthetics of these films, which is basically the pursuit of realist horror. So he goes through production practices, exhibition and marketing strategies, and focuses on a couple certain filmmakers which have been making sort of these really hardcore extreme films for the past couple of years. So again, if you're into maybe some of the more marginalized films that we don't necessarily cover on this show, you want to kind of do a deep dive into what's hardcore horror, check it out. Finally, this is a comic book, and I think I talked this up the Halloween show. It's Mega Ghost from Albatross. So it's a 5-issue limited series from, like I said, Albatross. It's really, really cool. It's written by Gabe Soria, illustrated by Gideon Kendall, and it's this really kind of cool story about this teenager who finds this magic ring, and it gives him the power to summon these spirits to form Mega Ghost. It's this giant, crazy robot, and he fights all kinds of supernatural menaces and stuff in his little hometown. So what's cool about it is it's really highly stylized artwork. So it's very cartoony. And that's what they described, and I think I talked about it in the earlier episode, where they kind of describe it as the Saturday cartoon that never was. But this is what it'd be like. And I said it's all Halloween kind of stuff and horror, but a really, really cool vibe. So, like I said, I've been buying it by the issue. I'm assuming after the next one comes out next month, number 5, they're probably gonna do a collected trade by the summertime. So look for Mega Ghost if you're all into any kind of cool horror Halloween stuff. Like I said, it's kid friendly too. So if you have a teen or a young adult that's also into Halloween or comic books, that would probably be a good starting point for them. So check it out.
Check it.
Yeah. They were cool. They were definitely cool.
Is this just the book club with the ladies tonight, or are we actually going to get to some movies or whatever?
The Oprah Book Club. The haunted Oprah Book Club.
Oprah approved.
Can you imagine? No, I've been lazy. And like I said, this show just like completely caught me off guard. I forgot. What's weird, like I thought we just did one. And then you were like, hey, we have a show coming up. I was like, really? I was like, well, all right. So there's 3 movies. All right. So I'm going to review 3 movies. And I don't know if you saw any of these because I gave you like no outline or no heads up this month. But anyway, so the first one is something that I had posted online as soon as I saw it because of like the salacious title. Okay. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot.
You've heard about the killings up north?
What's the FBI have to do with it?
Imagine all our worst fears about influenza in humans, bovine, swine, all of it coming true to life, only worse.
It's the Bigfoot, Ed. Eliminate, kill it. It's the carrier of this plague type thing.
Well, that's no good.
If we cannot contain the beast, if we cannot destroy it and it escapes, it could mean the very end of our world as we know it.
You're the last resort.
Right? So it's Sam Elliott, Adrian Turner, and Ron Livingston. It's not rated. It's about this character named Calvin Barr, who is a World War II vet, and he's kind of a recluse, kind of alone. And you learn throughout the movie that he lives alone now, and he has a little dog, and he has his routine. But during the course of World War II, he was an assassin for the United States government undercover, and he was tasked with killing Adolf Hitler. Now, in retirement, he's lived this life of quietness. The FBI comes to him after all these years and basically says, hey, we know what you did during World War II. We got this situation in Canada right over the border, and it's, Bigfoot has contracted a plague that will destroy all of the United States and the rest of the world if he moves south of the border. So the cover story is by the Canadian and the American government is that there's a serial killer on the loose in Canada, but it turns out that there's a plague-infected Bigfoot running around Canada. So they go to the guy who assassinated Hitler to try to take down the Bigfoot. Now,
yeah, I love that was the Bigfoot,
but dude, like the big, like I said, the inappropriate article, that just made me scream every time I look at this. So here's the thing, you look at the title and it's like, oh my God, this is gonna be batshit crazy. It's like hobo with a shotgun. It's like Planet Terror. Like it's just gonna be this grindhouse, over the top, ridiculous, just crazy movie. What we get is a very, very serious, quiet character study of an old, elderly, lonely man who's dealing with loss on several levels. He's dealing with the loss of his innocence. He's dealing with the loss of the love of his life. And he's dealing with the loss of the ability to connect with other people because of the things that he's done, which I'm watching this and at first I'm like, oh, okay, blah, 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 blah. But it's a very dark, depressing, quiet film. Yeah, I liked it. I dug it a lot. There's a series of flashbacks between the present day and the juxtaposition of how this young man goes off to the war and how he gets recruited and what he has to do during the war. And then all of a sudden he's like, yeah, sure, I'll go try to kill the Bigfoot because otherwise the American government's going to launch nuclear strikes on the Canadian Rockies to try to kill this mad Bigfoot, right? So it's this quiet, personal, deep film about this very lonely character. And then you get this 20 minutes of Sam Elliott scaling mountain walls And then he encounters this Bigfoot. And you think Bigfoot, you think like, $6 million man, like the big 7-foot dude and whatever. It's this like deranged, sort of Gollum, freaky, feral, rabid, ugly monkey monster. And it just jumps on him, he's running around and bites off Sam Elliott's ear, and it's batshit crazy. And then all of a sudden it just goes back to, he goes, okay. And then it just goes back to this like very sad personal story about him and his life and his dog and his brother. And I was like, I'm not sure what I just watched. So I dug it. I liked it. It's a weird movie. I almost wish they hadn't added this completely mental title. But then again, I think that maybe drew in a lot of people. Like I said, if you see the title, you think it's going to be just sort of this like weird 70s retro throwback.
It would be the equivalent of like seeing the title, seeing the Deep Throat. Oh, this must be like about a CIA like undercover deep operative, and you take your mother there and you get it. It's the title of the movie theater, and it's not that.
Oh no, absolutely. So I guess what I would say is, if you level set your expectations going into this, and you don't expect it to be this monster crazy horror movie, but instead it's this very quiet picture about this extraordinary gentleman. Like sometimes you see like this old man shuffling, there's like memes stuff, you see this old man shuffling down the street and you're like, this badass was a Green Beret in Vietnam. You have no idea who people are. And I think that's the point of this movie, where you see this very unassuming old man walking his dog with a hole in his shoe, going through his routine, but you don't know that the pivotal points in history that he's impacted. So I recommend it. I mean, again, Sam Elliott, his performance is amazing. So another thing to look for.
I dig Sam Elliott. I dig Ron Livingston. So, when I saw I didn't see the movie, but when I was just looking at the trailer, I was like, oh shit, I didn't realize those guys were in it. I would have gone out of my way to watch the movie for, to throw in my 2 cents, which is luckily I didn't.
Yeah, thank God. And thank the old gods. And they absolutely elevate this. I could watch Sam Elliott, all day. So it was good. Like I said, just don't expect it to be this sort of over the top parody kind of a flick. Like, go into it very expecting an actual thoughtful film that just happens to have Hitler and the Bigfoot. So I'll leave it with there. So the next movie is called Piercing.
I see this playing out in one of 3 ways. You want to know?
Oh, yeah, of course. That's why I called you. The victim has to be a prostitute.
Your guess is on the way up.
Thank you. The first step is to get her tied up and gagged. She'll probably try to run and scream.
Is everything all right, sir?
Everything's fine.
You could still kill her.
What?
The first one, she knows what's going on. I want a way to remember this. She's being fake. The second one is, but she's like crazy and wants to die. So take her home and stop her, right?
Yeah.
Now, Piercing is starring Christopher Abbott, and I'm going to screw this up. I'm already admitting it. I'm not drunk. I just can't pronounce last names. So it's Mia Wasikowska. Yeah, easy for me to say. Look it up. She's darling. She's a great actress. So anyway, it's rated R for aberrant violence and sexual content, nudity, and language, which makes this sound a lot more salacious than it is, because it's not that crazy. But just again, if you have kids in the house, or if you're looking for maybe more of a straight up horror movie, this isn't it, because this is more of a psychosexual kind of thriller than it is horror. But to the extent that there are horrific themes explored, certainly I think it qualifies as a horror film. So a man kisses his wife and baby goodbye and seemingly goes on a business trip with the plan to check into a hotel, call an escort service, and kill an unsuspecting prostitute to fulfill his fantasy. Now, that sounds completely wild, and it is wild. This movie was cool on several levels, and the one that I dug most about it is that it's very, very much in the line of the giallo films, of the Italian giallo films. And there are certain throwbacks to those films without necessarily aping them intentionally. It's more of a love letter, I would say, to the giallo films of the 70s and 80s in Italy. You know, you've got this highly stylized skyline. So, you know, it's sort of this vaguely Asian setting, but it's not. It sort of takes place nowhere, but it's everywhere, if that makes any sense. And you're dealing with basically two main characters. This husband who is going off to fulfill this fantasy of committing murder. Simultaneously, you're dealing with this woman who is a professional prostitute who answers his call. And again, I'm talking about the giallo films. There are moments where you think that you are watching something from the 70s and 80s in Italy. And simultaneously, there's also music used that's literally from a lot of those films. So they're utilizing the split screens. They're utilizing some of the trademarks of those films, like say like the black leather glove and other conceits that are prevalent in those films. So I don't know that this is, again, if you're like sitting down and you say, hey, I want to watch a horror movie tonight, let me throw on Piercing. This isn't it, but it's dark, it's demented. It's not necessarily, there's only one nude scene in its naked breast for a few seconds, but there's no overt sex. There's nothing crazy.
No full frontal?
No. I'm sorry, Chris. Yeah, Christopher Abbott doesn't get naked. I'm sorry for you. But it's a really weird movie. Again, it seems like a nightmare. It's really bizarre. They utilize these miniatures in terms of the buildings and so forth, but the performances again are just crazy. But on a certain level, again, without giving away too much, because I was yelled at Transworld a few times about how I spoil everything, it also operates as a very dark comedy, because at the very end of this, there's sort of this, I don't want to say punchline, but the final dialogue, I sat there and I laughed out loud. And it was like, I sat back and I said, wow, this is one of the stranger movies I've ever seen recently, because it's twisted, dark, but it's funny, and it's almost sadly romantic. And I know none of this makes sense, but again, I'm trying to avoid any kind of spoilers. So it's definitely, if you're into some kind of darker kind of a vibe and you want to see something that's not necessarily straightforward Hollywood kind of a film, I would definitely check it out. So far I'm 2 for 2, which is another thing I was yelled at Transworld about, the fact that I like everything suddenly. But what I said was, what I've started,
you have to watch more shit, Johnny. You gotta watch more terrible movies.
Dude, there's that. Well, there's that. And what I said was, I'm only sort of highlighting now the stuff that I dig. So I think, I don't know. So next time, what? So next time, should I try to only highlight the stuff that I hated? Maybe next time we'll just do, literally, it's going to be JT's top 5 that he hated this month. I don't know. You tell me. Anybody, post in Honcast or post on my Facebook page. Let me know what you want me to do. Who knows?
You know, you've been negative Nelly all these years, and then you start trying to be positive, and they're all down your throat.
Turn over a whole new leaf. All right. So the final movie that I saw is the #1 horror movie right now in America, Jordan Peele's Us.
There's a family in our driveway.
It's probably the neighbors. But y'all scared of a family? Hi, can I help you?
Zora, put your shoes on.
If you want to get crazy, we can get crazy. You people.
It's us.
They look exactly like us. They think like us. They know where we are. We need to move and keep moving. They won't stop until they kill us. Or we kill them.
So, as I said, written, produced, and directed by Jordan Peele, starring Lupita Nyong'o and Winston Duke, of course, both from Black Panther, which is another one of my awesome favorite movies from the past couple of years that, obviously we don't talk about because it's a Marvel superhero movie, but they were both awesome in this film. Rated R for violence, terror, and language. Now, I think everybody knows Jordan Peele. Like I said, here's my thing. Jordan Peele, I used to watch Mad TV religiously on Saturday nights because I love comedy sketch shows. And when Jordan Peele came on, I was like, wow, he's really, really funny. And of course, Key was also on at the same time. And they go on to Key and Peele on Comedy Central. And people are like, oh, this is the greatest show ever. I'm like, yeah, well, they were funny on Mad TV. So, when Get Out came out a couple of years ago, it sort of came out of left field. I didn't know that Peele was a big horror fan. I had no idea that he had these aspirations to do film like this. So I think to a certain extent, Get Out kind of caught a lot of people off guard in terms of the subject matter, the film itself, and who was behind the lens. So, Us is his sophomore effort. And again, I'm not going to get into too much because I'm tired of being yelled at by, 3 or 4 listeners, out of the 10 listeners we have. But so basically, I think you've all seen the commercials. And if you're going to go see this movie, I think this is all you need to know. Family goes on vacation to their summer house and is terrorized by this weird doppelganger family that commits a home invasion. Okay. Now, that is such an oversimplification of the plot. There is so much more going on here. But I think to give any more information to anyone that hasn't seen it or to someone that hasn't read into it more would completely spoil the plot. Now, overall, I liked it. I would recommend it. But I will say I think it's a little less successful than Get Out was in terms of the themes and the ideas. Us has a definite point of view. It definitely has a lot of threads going on. It has a lot of story here. It has a lot of things going on. But I don't know that Peele successfully brings them all together. Now, that's not to say that I want to be spoon-fed, that I don't want the whole plot explained to me, because most of it is, again, there's this horror sci-fi twist with this 3/4 of the way film exposition that explains the movie, just like in Get Out. If you remember, with the guy on the TV's like, hey, I guess you're wondering what's going on. There's a little bit of that here again, but Peele seems very interested in taking ideas of, again, race, obviously, and that's what everybody hits on. But I would argue this was, now obviously race is tied into class, but I would say this is much more tied into class and money and the caste system as it exists sort of in America, and entitlement and privilege, and how that plays out in America, and how if the others who don't have the benefits might play out in terms of trying to express their frustration with the system, if that makes any sense. And again, I'm not trying to give too much away. So to me, this was more about class and class warfare and wealth and the distribution of wealth. But again, I think a race is obviously the overriding theme that I think most people take out of this. Now, I will say, again, I thought the performances are stunning. If you watch it's basically 4 lead characters, but the 2 leads, as I said, are really, really stunning. Like I said, Lupita Nyong'o, she gives 2 performances that are simply stunning. The evil character is horrifying, frightening, disturbing and just sickening, and yet there's such a compelling aspect of the performance that you can't look away from her, as grotesque as this character is. But I would say it's overly long. It really comes in at 2 hours. I think that there are a couple scenes I would have excised. There's one scene I would have made shorter. And a criticism that I've said, maybe, I'm not comparing the filmmakers, but say Tim Burton maybe needs an editor sometimes. I think in this one, Peele might have benefited from someone kind of reining it in a little bit and maybe kind of focusing some of the themes and ideas. Like I said, there are a couple scenes where it just seemed I'm just kind of taking it as like, hey, look at me, I'm in love with being a filmmaker. But again, some of the things were on point, and I got a lot of what he was saying. And it's certainly, this is a film that you could sit down, and I've been listening to public radio all week where there's just been hours spent about discussing. And I don't think anything is necessarily wrong, or anyone's opinion is necessarily wrong. And I love the fact that there are some open questions. And again, you can talk about, is this about race? Is this about privilege? Is this about, wealth? But overall, I dug it. And like I said, I would recommend it. I would say if you weren't a fan of Get Out, you're not going to dig this. So you might want to wait until it's on TV or Netflix or whatever the kids are into these days. Again, this month, none of these three, which I noticed just right now, are necessarily straight up horror. It's a character study. It's a thriller. And arguably Us is also a thriller with sci-fi and horror elements. So again, none of these three are necessarily something you want to sit down on Saturday night with popcorn with the kids. But
hey, Johnny, I could be wrong, but no, isn't this supposed to be a horror segment? I could be wrong.
This is what passes for horror.
All right then.
Piss off.
See, I'm bringing the sour grapes. So you
had to bring the whole hour down.
We're flipping things upside down. You're Mr. Happy, and I'm bringing the fucking sour grapes.
All right, man.
Hey, well, don't be a stranger.
Yeah,
you've got my number.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, that you only call when you ask dial me.
All right, we'll catch up. All
right, man.
All right, it was good talking to you. And everybody, thank you for listening. As always, this is Johnny Thunder saying, stay scary.
The darkest web.
Hello again, minions. Well, spring has sprung. Most normal people are busy with spring cleaning, tending their flower gardens, and prepping Easter baskets, but many of our kind are consumed with wicked thoughts of how best to scare the kiddies this year and scheming up ways to make our haunts even more creep-tacular. But speaking of Easter, if you've listened to the last few Hauntcast episodes, by now you've probably noticed that I'm a huge fan of the holiday mashup. Finding ways to spookify all non-Halloween holidays is a favorite pastime of mine, so let's talk about a couple of ways to enjoy a slightly creepier Easter. Google creepy Easter bunny photos. Seriously, go ahead and do it. You'll find dozens of websites with large photo collections of horribly terrifying Easter bunnies and frightened children. Kids who are no doubt emotionally scarred by the memory of the costumed abomination that they're being forced to pose with. It's pretty wonderful, really. Want some schlocky Easter-themed horror movie suggestions? HorrorHomeroom.com has compiled a pretty fun list to keep you entertained while you munch away on chocolate bunnies and marshmallow peeps. I haven't checked these out yet, but I plan to spend a little time on my Easter Sunday giving these flicks a watch. After reading the synopsis of all the films, I think I'll try Easter Bunny Kill Kill and Easter Casket, both streaming on Amazon. That website again is horrorhomeroom.com. That's HorrorHomeroom. And then just do a search for Top 10 Easter. Now I want to take a hard turn to another topic that keeps popping up on my radar lately. Doll houses. The creepy doll has long been a horror trope, but the actual doll's house? That's something that's somewhat more recently been of interest. Dollhouses and miniatures are featured prominently in Hereditary, The Haunting of Hill House, and Sharp Objects. I won't go into the psychological significance or metaphors associated with dollhouses because I'm mostly here to give you links to check out. And also, I know someone who is way more eloquent than me that I, for one, would love to hear pontificate on the subject. Not naming any names or anything. Revenant. However, I will include a couple of links to some interesting articles on the subject in the show notes. If you do an Etsy search for Haunted Dollhouse, you'll find an incredible wealth of spooky, beautifully detailed items scaled to fit into a dollhouse or miniature display. Old books, creepy portraits, tiny Ouija boards, candelabras, and so on. My favorite purveyor of creepy dollhouses is a shop called Twisted Copper Forest, owned by artist Julie Steele. It looks like right now she's sold all of her dollhouses. Check out her sold listings. But you can find a wonderful photo collection of her work on a website called Geek X Girls. That's GeekXGirls.com. And then do a search for Julie Steele, spelled Julisteel. Or, of course, you can find the link in the show notes. You can also check her out on Facebook as Twisted Copper Forest. I think it would be really fun to try making a miniature haunted house. If you do too, there are several helpful YouTube videos showing different methods, but my favorite might be from a channel called Square to Spare. She has 3 videos I'd recommend you check out: the DIY miniature haunted house, DIY miniature terrain, and DIY miniature abandoned car. While her accent does make it rather difficult to understand her at times, the visuals are enough to make it clear what she's doing. She also has a really impressive video of a miniature Winchester mystery house. Again, that channel is Square to Spare, SQUARETOSPARE. Take a look at a blog called Greg's Miniature Imaginations. It has a very impressive haunted mansion that he created entirely out of cardboard. He completed it in only 2 weeks. This guy must not need much sleep. You gotta take a look and notice how much the addition of some simple little LED lights really makes the house come alive. It's just gorgeous. I'll include the link to his site in the show notes, or you can do a web search for Greg, that's Greg with 2 G's, Miniature Imaginations. Of course, there's also lots of ideas and tips on how to make a miniature haunted house all over the internet, maybe most notably on Pinterest and Instructables. Now, to break away from my haunted miniature fascination, there's not a wealth of new streaming horror shows to discuss, but I do want to mention the new What We Do in the Shadows series that premieres March 27th, which happens to be the day that I'm recording this segment. It's comedy horror, which can really be hit or miss for me, but I did love the film that the show is based on, so I'm going to give it a watch. The show's created by New Zealand comedians and filmmakers Jermaine Clement and Taika Waititi. It's set in New York City and is a documentary style that follows 3 vampires who have been roommates for hundreds of years. It's now streaming on FX. Looking for some Halloween-themed clothing or accessories? Make your way over to sweetmidnight.com. Renee Harper is the proprietress. She's got men's shirts, ladies' skirts, shoes, purses, and other accessories. Her line featuring vintage-inspired characters called Halloween Party Animals might be my favorite. My other favorite theme is called Trick or Treat in the Graveyard. Her stuff is really charming and her prices are very fair. And if you ever happen to be in southern Arizona, which is my neck of the woods, you can also take a guided ghost tour through the old mining town of Bisbee with Renee as your host. Even if ghosts really aren't your thing, it's fun to take an evening walk and learn about the town's history. Her website is spelled like it sounds, Sweet Midnight, SweetMidnight.com. Now let's talk about a cool haunt and one prop in particular that caught my eye. Grimwood Hollow is a yard display haunt from Burbank, California. This haunt has some really beautiful lighting, using bright saturated colors but still maintaining a very creepy look. There's a lot of spooky goodness packed into this graveyard with great attention to detail. Home haunters Steve and Nicole Catronio have really successfully achieved layers and layers of depth with how they've set up their display. They've made some really gorgeous tombstones too, but the prop I really want to shout out is the Stirring Swamp Witch. We've all seen many different takes on the Stirring Witch or the Cauldron Creep, and honestly I love most all of them. It's one of my favorite props. But this gal is something special. She's got one milky eye, huge scary teeth, pointy ears, and looks all dried out and desiccated. Yet still she stirs. The contents of her cauldron are lit up a bright green, and it appears to have a bubbly surface. You can peep this lovely stirring hag on Facebook and YouTube. Just look up Grimwood Hollow and enjoy some haunty eye candy. That's GrimwoodHollow. Finally, I want to wrap up by mentioning another cool haunt that you can follow on Facebook and Instagram. Coincidentally, this is another Burbank haunt. It's called the Backwoods Maze and has been running since 2003. It's a longer walk-through haunt set up in the backyard of the Gustafson family's house. The theme of this haunt is a crazy mix of post-apocalyptic junkyard, Roger Rabbit, sci-fi, cyberpunk, toxic nightmare. It features animal-human hybrid creatures and really creepy plant-human mashups. This is one impressive and seriously ambitious haunt. Everything is crafted by owners and creators Jeff and Taylor Gustafson and their very talented friends. The detail and scale of this thing is really incredible. The haunt operates only in October, but it stays up year-round, so they must have some pretty chill neighbors. They were voted the #1 scariest haunted house in the U.S. by Yelp Travel and Leisure. Definitely take a peek at the YouTube video called Backwoods Maze Daytime Behind the Scenes. It's a super fun walkthrough, show and tell that's well worth a 22-minute watch. Well, I think that's it for this month's segment. From Easter creeps to demented dollhouses to home haunty goodness, enjoy and have a spine-tingling spring. I'll be here, lurking, patiently waiting until you return to the darkest web.
Welcome, Haunters. I'm your host, Ed Gannon, professional haunter, Something Wicked Productions, Haunt Dogs, also Wicked Amusements. That's a lot of stuff. And in this episode of Something Wicked, we'll talk about tools of the trade, the secret weapons monsters use to scare you. No matter how stalwart a patron may be, it is usually possible to startle them with the proper setup. While this may take a little more effort to get their guard down, once ready, you can hammer them with motion, light, and sound. For decades, the industry standard go-to guaranteed tool for a haunt actor to get a reaction out of someone has been the chainsaw. While you can't argue with the results, many believe this is like giving up. What I mean is, it's kind of easy to get a scare for those who will be scared by such, but for those who won't, or are desensitized to it, it's got the opposite effect. Especially if it's a real chainsaw with all the fumes around. There are plenty of other options out there, and we're going to talk about them. For noisy props, there are horns and whistles. Loud air horns, either the old squeeze bulb type, all the way up to the ones on a cordless drill. Some have LEDs, so you get light and sound for the scare. Very effective and very loud. Quick note here, and I mention it often. Blasting loud noises in someone's ear, like horns or yelling, is not scary. It's my own opinion, it's not scary. It's annoying, or even painful. And it's definitely not fun for the patron. Like I always say, we are in the entertainment business. We want patrons to leave with an experience, not a headache. And if you still think it's scary to blast someone's ear, keep in mind, that makes people angry. Anger and fear can't exist in the same brain at the same time. So they may have been scared, but you just blasted them out of it, and out of a possible great experience.
You're killing me!
Whistles are good, especially if they fit the theme or character, but they can also be effective mimicking other creatures or sounds. Perfect examples are the Aztec death whistles that I sell through Haunt Dogs. If you've never heard them, they sound like this. They're supposed to sound like 1,000 people screaming at once. It's a 4-chamber whistle, so it has 4 separate tones, which bounce off objects at different rates. The effect indoors is it often sounds as if it's behind you, and outdoors it can be difficult to locate its source. Perfect for haunting. Other whistles like bird calls, owl whistles, and the like can be eerily effective. I have several line entertainment characters that have portable sound systems on them, so they have their own soundtrack. For example, I developed a 50s couple, zombie girl with a poodle skirt and her beau with a Letterman jacket, and you knew they were coming as 50 songs preceded them.
Well, where can my baby be? The Lord took her away from me. She's gone to heaven, so I got to be good, so I can see my baby when I leave this world.
And sudden jitterbugging zombies would invade your space. Great conversation starter. I had a similar setup for our frozen Titanic ghost couple playing string quartet music.
Gentlemen, it has been a privilege playing with these guys.
My buddy Blood character, lounge singing Vegas vampire, all right, sings along to crooner tunes with my own parody lyrics entertaining the crowd. Some of the actor sound components are old school with MP3 players and personal speakers, and some are triggerable with push-button systems like the small but loud Minion actor sound system by VFX. At $350, it's not at the top of the price range, but will be out of the budget of many actors, and it is pretty amazing. It does have a small memory though, so no big files, but 6, expandable to 12, scary sounds are ready to go at the push of a button. My buddy over at Gore Galore has a similar setup, very loud, built tough, but a bit more bulky. It comes with a chest harness containing a 12-volt 9CAD rechargeable battery pack and a 2 GB sound card to put hours of audio on. This also is push-button activated with many sounds for $598. Meant to go under big bulky costumes, it's extra loud for hours. Other sound scares, like the Fear Fan, I also sell for $30, create a loud noise when snapped open and can imitate bird or bat wings taking flight when fluttered open and closed. The thing I like best about these is they don't sound human. They're not a person making noises. It's something else. For many years, shaker cans have been used in California and Florida. You know where. A simple tin can with some steel BBs in it and sealed back up and shaken in the dark will still get a scare. I make clacker gloves, which are amazingly useful and effective, $75. They're fitted work gloves, the good kind, not the ones that fall off your hand like a paper bag, and they have metal fingertips attached. These could be clacked together to make metal clinking noise or to run along any number of hard surfaces to create more sounds. Great for sliding too, which is another tool haunters use. Sliding gloves, knee pads, elbow pads, and the like. The sliding gloves have an additional metal piece on the palm to take your weight on concrete or blacktop. With the addition of magnesium devices to the upper palm, the actor can lightly and quickly run their hand along any porous surface like brick, concrete, or blacktop to create bright orange sparks. Sliding near a group of patrons will always get a good reaction, especially because you're locomoting in a way that humans usually can't or don't. But be careful not to bowl guests over. Light is a great tool for scaring and hiding. Oh yes, you can hide in light. Ever see a laser vortex tunnel? The light is a cone facing the guests, and that's all they can see. But any monsters outside of that cone, or under it, can see perfectly well, just picking their moment to strike. Bright lights do the same. Stand behind one, and you see everything while guests get their night vision taken away. Then, bam! You pop out, and they can barely even see you. Light harnesses worn around your neck that light your face at the touch of a button are incredibly effective in the dark. Now they see you, now they don't. Same goes for LEDs in a mask on a button. Best from far away, they foretell of night creatures with reflective eyes that can see in the dark when you can't. UV neck lights can be used in conjunction with UV contact lenses or UV contact lens dye to totally blow your guests away. Human eyes don't glow, you know. I've been using this trick for decades, and it's amazing. I sell those UV dye strips, too. Check out Ed Gannon on Facebook, and you'll see them in my profile pic. My eyes are just glowing yellow. It's incredible. Other props you will see around, like fake knives, giant hammers, canes, chains, or pipes, require a special someone to use them correctly. If you have an actor that doesn't speak, can't speak, or just doesn't have the talent for the improv good haunt acting requires, I ask that you give second thoughts to handing that actor a fake knife or something to hit something with and tell them to go be scary. I see it all the time, all over the country. I'll be honest, it makes me a little sad. It's not that the actor isn't trying, it's that they don't have the correct tools for the job. Not everyone is going to have the talent to be a line entertainer. We all realize that. But with a little more effort on our part, even your mildest actor can be made more effective. One tool I don't see used enough in our haunt actor arsenal is intensity and timing used correctly. An actor does not need to recite Shakespeare to be effective. Pop out at the right moment, and half their work is done. Most importantly, pop right back out of sight, wait a second, pick their next target, then pop out again, and they're already better prepared than most who have the longest dialogues. Give the actor that needs a little extra oomph some of your time, a little coaching, and it will make a world of difference. Usually.
Whoa, stop right there.
In martial arts, you don't even pick up a weapon until you master yourself first. Haunting should be the same. Before the actor is handed a tool to scare, they should be able to do some of that without it. What happens if that prop breaks? We've all seen it. That actor is totally lost and often feels ineffective without it. Props should be there to enhance a performance, not replace it. Can it put bang in your show? Abso-freaking-lutely. But if an inexperienced actor uses that prop inappropriately or naively, they could hurt patrons or themselves. Almost as bad, they just may be ineffective. And lastly, any prop or device that destroys your scenery, sets, props, or costumes is not effective. I say it is not effective. Destroying the show is not scary. The first guest should have the opportunity to get the same experience as your last guest with the same visuals. Destroyed sets just look like crap, not like a monster lives there.
Yeah, it was like somebody literally wrote down my worst nightmare and then charged me $32 to see it.
If you want loud banging, crunching, crashing things, create things to bang on and create things to bang them with that will never come in contact with a guest. A little common sense goes a long way. So many things can be used by actors to get good scares beyond their own voices and foot stomps. I believe this will never stop evolving. And if you have some I missed, please feel free to write me a note on Facebook, Ed Gannon, now in Boston, or through email, edgwicked@aol.com. Well, look at the time. All right, we'll wrap up this segment for now. In future episodes, we'll talk about more aspects of professional haunting, their methods, philosophies, how-tos, and so much more. But I see our moments here are up, so until next time, be safe. This is Ed Gannon, www.somethingwickedproductions.com, saying, have a wicked day.
Interviews with haunting gurus.
Open wide as we take a bite out of the rotten apple. 907 Haunt featured in the movie Epic Home Haunts. Joining me in the dungeon are the co-conspirators, Preston and Diane, joined with their daughter. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Melissa.
Probably should have done that before we started recording. That's all right. Got it now. All right, you guys are located in Burbank, California. Isn't The Price is Right recorded in Burbank?
It used to be.
It used to be.
Yeah.
Like I heard the name and I'm like, oh my God, I have that like ringing in my head from when I was a kid.
For those of ancient people around,
I know,
Rowan
no
and
kidding. Bob is long gone now. Okay, so how long has the haunt been in operation?
This will be our 29th year.
Wow. Yeah, like I was looking at some of the YouTube videos, and I think I only went back. I think it went back to like 2003. So
that's as early as we have video of it.
Before all the Facey Bookie and YouTubey and all that fancy stuff.
Yeah,
we don't really have even pictures of.
We have Polaroids.
Yeah, further back.
When you had to go to the photo mat, drop off your film. So 29 years. So how did you get into it? How did you start?
Well, basically, my daughter was born on October 26th. And
26th?
26th.
That's the same as mine. Happy birthday.
So it's her fault.
So we started having Halloween-flavored birthday parties for her. And we'd invite her friends in, but before they came to the party, they'd have to go through the haunted house that we built in our living room. And we had all the standard stuff with dry ice smoke and noodles and peeled grapes and all that kind of gunk that they had to stick their hands in before they'd come to the party. And, well, we started having it on Halloween. And so the trick-or-treaters that would come to the door, they didn't want the candy that we're trying to give them. They wanted to come into the haunted house. What's in there? I want to go in there. I want to see that. So for 5 or 6 years at least, we actually had the haunt inside the house. We went through the living room to the kitchen, or dining room to the kitchen, to the hallway, and then back out the front door again.
You guys were like Roseanne.
Yeah.
Right.
We still have screws in the ceiling where we screwed tarps up, felt up to make dividers.
That was like the first couple of years. When did it get to a point where it moved outside? And What's that?
When we decided to fill the entire front room in dirt. We made an indoor cemetery, and so we lined the floor with plastic. We flipped a couch over. And covered the whole room in dirt. After that year, my mom was like, "Nope, take it outside."
I'm surprised she let you do that to begin with. Now, was this just the three of you who were involved?
Pretty much so, yeah.
So when it moved outside, did you start gaining other helpers along the way?
Yeah, we've gone through several different helpers. My relatives and family friends and different people have come and gone over the years, but the three of us have basically been the mainstay. Melissa even one year said, "I'm tired of this. I don't want to do this." But she was back the next year, and she couldn't wait.
I couldn't do it.
Keep sucking you back in.
Yeah. Right now we have like 3 or 4 other people that have been helping us for the last probably 7 years or so that are diehards that help us out. I guess it's 3 of them and 4. And so they've been with us for like 7 years or so.
Not more.
Yeah. And then, of course, Melissa's husband, whenever he's not busy doing other things, he comes and helps.
Of course, that's a marriage requirement.
Yes.
As part of their ceremony, I had the minister stop the ceremony right in the middle before, right at the point where they say, "Does anybody have anything that, they want to say about this?" This is, "Well, yes, I have this contract that you need to sign before we go through with this."
Yes.
So I have a contract signed by him that says he's not going to infringe upon Halloween.
You can't. He can't have a competing haunt. We could not have any babies during Halloween. What else?
So that was like a prenup. That was
pretty much. Yeah. Day of prenup.
Yeah.
In case of divorce,
like,
we get all these props are mine, and
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it was funny.
The thing that I find most amazing about your haunt is that the fact that you pretty much turn the entire thing out. You do a new theme. You completely rebuild the entire haunt every single year. Is that right?
Yeah. I think we've only repeated once or twice.
Once, I think it was.
And even then we changed it.
And even then the theme was the same, but the inside was completely different.
Yeah, we changed. All but one room was totally different.
Did that start at a certain point? Were you doing, originally, you've been doing this for 29 years. So originally, not when you were inside, but when you moved outside, did you run with just one thing or like have a Haunt 57, everything thrown together at first? Or you right out of the gate themed and change it up every year from that point on?
We've always had one theme for each year.
Even when we were house, we were doing themes, and when we got outside, we really got into doing things that people would recognize, and so they could buy into the experience.
It's a massive amount of work. So how do you even make it happen? You say the three of you. Mm-hmm. Melissa, your husband kind of joins in on the fun, and you have 3 or 4 die-hard helpers who help to build. So pretty much you've got about 6, 7, maybe 8 people tops helping you rebuild the haunt every single year.
Yeah, wow. That's it.
And it usually only we cannot start because we don't have, our backyard is full of garbage, so there's no room to build back there. So the haunt does not actually start. Nothing usually gets built until the beginning of September. And so we work every single day and every weekend from September 1st until Halloween, until we open, which is usually a couple of weeks before Halloween.
It's not garbage. It's good stuff. It's stuff that we use all the time.
There's a lot of garbage in the back.
Mixed in with other good stuff.
There's a limited room, so we can't build stuff. And we have cranky neighbors, so we only have a limited time. So we've got that 2 months to build anything that we're going to build. So if we're going to, like when we begin the big clown face and all that, we couldn't start it till September because we had no place to build it.
That was another question I had for you. I was assuming that you were building the haunt off-site in a shop or something and then bringing it back and assembling. No, everything is September 1, straight through, nonstop building.
Yeah, some of the smaller things, sometimes we can get away with building in the backyard, like some of the smaller mechanisms, but most of the walls and the big things all are done September to October.
We do have walls that are over in storage that we've used, but then we repurpose every year. They're walls that we have, and that we repurpose them to whatever we need them to be. But we start basically from scratch every year.
What about the pneumatic things that you have, which you have a good mix of actors and animatronics? Those are also, you wait until September to work on those, or are those being worked on earlier in the year?
Usually. Sometimes some of those are done like the last 2 weeks before because it's like we're too busy getting everything else ready. But some of them are repurposed from year to year and just switched around, and some of them are brand new, and he's our pneumatics guy.
The coverings and stuff like that, usually she ends up doing. But a lot of the actions are just repurposed. We already have standard actions. Oh, we need a pop-up. Okay, what are we going to just put on top of it? Or, but like the dragon and stuff, we had to build that up from scratch. And it happened within a month or a couple weeks before the haunt opened.
Yeah, I think that was like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty cool. And it was huge. How high did that stand? How big was that, roughly?
7 feet high, 8 feet high when it came up and over. And then the wingspan was about 6 or 7 feet.
How was that constructed?
It was basically a commercial 4-bar action that we bought and we've had around. And then I built on top of that another action that held the wings. And the wings were made out of, don't ever throw anything away, because the wings were made out of scrap pop-up tent tubing. The metal tubing that the pop-up tents are made out of makes really great lightweight rods for wings and things. And then the neck I made out of Simpson post brackets, and it was actually articulated. It was kind of like a tentacle action where the head would go up and down and sideways.
Somebody had to trigger it, or did somebody just hit a button? Did you have somebody work the control or something?
Our princess triggered it.
Our princess triggered it. It was Preston.
I was sitting on the throne in front of the dragon, and I had buttons underneath the throne, and there were like 3 different buttons to control it. So I would sit there, and when the people would come in, I could actually control the thing without them seeing it. And it was up and down, and the wings out, and the head moved back and forth, and I could control that also right where they were there, so I could tailor it to the customer.
So who's who kind of handles the set designs mostly? Does everybody just pitch in, or do you have like someone who's your set designer?
Melissa usually do.
Yeah, it's always like a team effort. We sit down, at the beginning of the year or wherever, we get an idea. Okay, this is what we have. This is kind of the idea we have. Let's walk through what we could put in it, what we could do, what kind of effects we can do, and then her and I kind of like, okay, the visual of what it's going to look like. But then when it comes to like the day of like actually building the stuff and making it look right, that's her mostly. I handle costumes.
Yeah, she handles more of the costume stuff, and I handle more of the rest of the set decor.
Now, did you just constantly just keep accumulating? When you're talking about the junk in the backyard, are these just all the stuff that you've been accumulating? You just keep accumulating, thinking, we could use this at some point. We do a hunt, somewhere in the next 5 or 10 years, we could probably use this. So you just grab it and kind of put it in the back, and then eventually you go, okay, this is the room we need. Let's just rummage through what we have and put. I mean, it looks so much more put together than that. But
we try not to.
The stuff in the backyard is literally junk.
No, it's not.
Well, right now it's all
dragons in the back.
Well, one man's junk, is another man's treasure.
Right now it's all full of MSS panels.
Yeah, right now we're building panels from Midsummer Scream, so that's right in the backyard right now. And but it's a lot of things like all the actions and all that kind of stuff. And we have, PVC pipes are all over the place and all the lumber and all that stuff. Our main storage of stuff, we have a storage yard out several miles away. I don't know how many miles away. It's quite a ways, and about an hour away. And that holds all of our panels and props that, like we have an organ out there. I don't know if it works because it was part of the flood, so I don't know. But some bigger items and stuff like that. We don't keep our pneumatic stuff out there because we can't trust whether it's safe or not to leave them there. Most of the other stuff, someone's going to say, why do we need an old couch? Some of that. So that's safe out there. We have another garage that's here locally in Burbank that houses some of the little prop things, like little gargoyles or dolls or,
skeleton heads.
Yeah, skeleton heads and all that kind of stuff.
Body parts.
And here at the house, we have a lot of like the building stuff. And we actually have a swimming pool in our backyard, but I got tired of it always not being cleaned. So we drained the pool, and it now houses Halloween storage. We built a deck over the top of it, and in the pool is vacuum form panels. And so so now we can work on top of the pool, so we have actually room in the backyard.
Now, where's the main workshop? Is it in the basement or garage or something, or
just the backyard?
Mostly outside.
Just wherever we can find room outside.
Drag everything out. Well, you can do that because you have great weather year round. So.
Except for this year. Yeah. This year it won't quit raining.
Do you already know what you're doing for this coming year? Do you already have the theme put together?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah? Do we get a sneak peek or no?
Yeah, we can do that. We actually have themes kind of in process for sometimes 4 or 5 years where when we're theorizing about stuff and brainstorming, say, oh, that would be a really great haunt, or this would be really great. And then like we started off this year as about 3 years ago wanting to do a capsized ship. The whole haunt was going to be the inside of a capsized ship. And, well, actually started sideways. It was just on its side, not capsized. And we were thinking, oh, well, how's that going to work? And what's going to happen? So then it got capsized totally. Then it was up on the rocks. And so now I think we finally settled on it's an old sailing ship in the middle of a jungle that's up on the ground. And you're just going to walk into it.
So how are you going to do that? You're going to build... the front of the ship off the the front of the house, and just they kind of go through a hole in the hull or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are so ambitious. I've been running the same haunt theme for like 12 years, and I have no plans on changing it anytime in the near future. I just keep adding things or taking things out, putting a new thing in, and just kind of rotating things around. Or, like I told myself last year, I'm not building anything new. And then I went crazy in July and just worked it through the next couple of months. I told myself the same thing this year. I'm really not going to make any purchases, any major purchases on props or anything. But I know I'll get into it. I'll start working on like one thing, and then I'll start 5 other projects, which is pretty typical. But I do everything myself. Like, I don't have any help. So it's a completely different scenario. I have to keep things kind of easier. I just don't have the bodies around here. My kids are all in college. I had helpers, but they come and go. You know how it is. But I haven't... Even when I have people that have been with me for 5 years, like even last year, the guy kind of helped out at the front and did flow control and welcomed people in and kind of did all that. He bailed on me, and he'd been with me for like 5 years, and he always had a great time. And then he just said, he had some excuse. I was like, oh, man, if I lose him, I can't count on anyone, man.
We have a couple of them. We have one that was our building guy. Like, he was one of our go-to building guys, and he was, like, responsible for the structure and everything. And then he's like, okay, I'm moving to New York. And we're like, No, wait. No, you're not.
Why would you go to New York?
Yeah.
And then we have a couple of, and you know how life is, and people get sick, or people actually have lives other than Halloween. I can't imagine why, but so then our help is a hit and miss. So us three and stuff are the mainstay, and then Martin is usually pretty good. He's usually here, and Galen is, and we have one guy, Hector, that basically does all our sound, runs all of our speakers, our audio. We have cameras throughout the haunt, so that way the fire department loves us because we can, if there's a problem, we can get people out. And then we have the camera, so he can trigger some of the things from inside the house. And so we have an office, and that whole area is like the headquarters, and everything, all the wires are run into our house, and he can control things in there. And he comes in and runs wires. Now, last year, he had the nerve to have a baby. And
How dare he?
And so he's going, and I want to go and trick or treat with my child. Hello? How can you go and do this on Halloween? And we were laughing, going, no, and stuff. So we had to, thank goodness her husband was free, so he helped us out in the office and do that. So we do have the problems that, as if people get sick and they can't, some years we have a whole lot of help. Other years it's just, very few. So it's a hit and miss.
I'm going to run through some of the haunts that you had from the last couple of years. And there was a few kind of props and kind of gimmicks and stuff that you had in there that I was curious about. So 2013, you did, is it Wellesley Manor?
Yeah.
It was more of a Victorian haunted house.
Yeah.
How did that Ouija board gag work?
That worked pretty good. We had, actually it was pneumatic. We had 2 air cylinders hooked up to it, and they drive each other, so that there were actually 4 stable points that you could put it on. But by just pulsing it a little bit at a time, you could get it to go just about anywhere you wanted. And then that was tied into the controller that we use, so that the actor in the room would push one button, and then the whole scenario would work through. The skeletons would talk to each other and ask the Ouija board questions, and then the Ouija board would respond. And then just as soon as they thought that, okay, that was over, and they were out of the room, then a burnt body would pop out of the fireplace. And that was all run through one controller.
Say, I'm still trying to wrap my head around how you did explain the Ouija board thing again. I just want to get the concept. You said that there was some pistons that were moving.
Yeah, it's 2 air cylinders.
Okay.
So the one cylinder would go in and out and kind of push the planchette diagonally. And then the other cylinder was connected to...
So they were underneath it?
Underneath it, yeah.
Okay.
And it was hooked up magnetically. There was a magnet.
Oh, it's a magnet. Okay, I figured it had to be some kind of a magnet. Okay, now I got it. There was a portrait in, I guess, the living room. It looked like Peter Cushing. Was that Peter Cushing?
Atmosphere Effects. I think it was the Unliving Portraits or one of those.
Yeah. So we're not beneath us to go buy stuff if it fits.
Hey, if it works.
How could you not? I mean, I've never tried to make something like that. I'm not great with, I can do a little bit with Illustrator. I can do a little bit with some of the other, I use iMovie. I need to get into using the Adobe movie editor. What the hell's the name of that?
Or After Effects?
Something like that. I don't.
Yeah.
Obviously, I need to move from iMovie to that because it's so much more robust and you could do so much more with it. That's one of the things I want to do over the next couple of months. I'm finally got motivated now that Transworld, I'm seeing all the pictures and videos coming in from Transworld. So it's like, all right, now I'm motivated. I've been putting that off for 6 months or whatever. It's time to get to work.
That's what's driven us all these years, because it's a reason to get into all of this stuff, the pneumatics and the set decorating and the costuming. And otherwise, why would you be doing what we're doing? Why would I build a dragon, just for myself? No, but if it's for the haunt, okay, that's okay.
Yeah, you don't seem too psychotic, because you can say, it's for this haunted thing. So, I do like it. I like to be that, like, the Renaissance person where, you're doing the video editing and you need to make a haunt design or, like a little logo for your haunt. You're taking pictures outside. So I've learned photography. I'm actually really solid at night photography. I'm not that great in the day, just because I only really use the camera when I'm taking pictures of my haunt out at night. But the pneumatics, learning VSA, learning a little of this, little of that. You're like, the skill set is so diverse. It's insane.
We bought a camera several years ago just so we could film the haunt, and so it worked better in light, and got a little bit more expensive camera, and so. Last year, it was and we needed to record it. So I had a friend, and Preston was in the haunt, and says, "Can you use this camera? Can you record for us now?" Chris and Gina, Hollywood Haunters. And so I handed the camera to Chris, and I says, "Can you film?" Because they film their stuff all the time, so I figure I'm safe. And he's going, "How do you use it?" And I'm going, I don't know. and so then I'm getting Preston out of the haunt and going, and Preston's go, oh, geez, I got to remember how we did this. So here we are. People are waiting in line to go through, and we're trying to figure out how to work the camera so they can film it.
Now, you have a setup. Do you have one of those little security camera type setups where you have, in a number of different rooms, all going back to like, a DVR or something, so you can record it and watch and see everything that's going on?
Yeah. In theory, we never have a chance to actually go back and watch any of them, but yeah.
I've wanted to do that setup, but I don't want to get into my thing. I had like a small walkthrough, but have problems with the town. I kind of worked a way around doing some kind of a walkthrough, but I can't put up the 4x8 panels because they're wood. I need to do like PVC frames with tarps to get around the structure issues. Actually, since we're on that, how many people did you have go through last year? Like, what's your throughput or your body count? I guess it's being more appropriate.
Yeah, body count. I think in the 5 days we had 5,000 people.
Wow.
Something to that effect, 4,000?
Yeah, 4 or 5,
4,500, something like that.
So what do you do? You do the 2 weekends prior to Halloween and then Halloween night kind of a thing?
Basically.
Yeah. And then we usually try to do one more night, which is Haunters Night, the following Saturday right after whenever Halloween is. We try to do Haunters Night because we have, like us, we never get to see anybody's haunt because we're always at our haunt. So we always try to have one extra night so that way our friends and stuff can come see the haunt that don't get a chance to see it because they're busy.
How do you deal with the neighbors and the town? Because I only get like 300 people one night a year. Well, I might have had up to 5 last year. And I've got problems with my neighbors. I'm dancing around trying to, trying to prevent the town from shutting me down. So how do you guys pull it off?
Well, over the years, we've tried to make things as easy as we can for the neighbors, and most of the neighbors support us. There's 1 or 2 or 3 that don't like us, and one threatened us, I'm going to do everything I can to shut you down. But actually, she did us a favor because the first year she was here, she called the fire department on us, and they were going to close us down entirely until I invited them in and actually look at what I had in the haunt. And they were doing their inspection, and about halfway through the haunt, there was 3 firemen, and they looked at each other and go, are we going to tell this guy that he needs to do anything that he hasn't already done? And they go, no. So he pointed his finger at me and says, next year, get a permit. So ever since then, we've been getting a permit. And so now the city actually authorizes us, and we've got a city permit to be open to certain hours, and we have to have the stuff out of the property at a certain time and on the property at a certain time. So it's a little bit of a hassle that way. But it's quieted down some of the complaints because we can say, look, the city's approved us.
Yeah.
We have fire marshals come through and check everything out, and we're always above what their standards would be anyways, so
we get away with a little bit more because we do have the cameras, so they know that we've got somebody watching 24/7, so that helps them eliminate. The year that the fire marshals first came through, it just happened to be the year that we got emergency lights, and they had them on sale at Harbor Freight, so we thought, this is probably a good idea. We always had put fire extinguishers in there and stuff, and we always had extra emergency exits, so that wasn't a problem. But that year we happened to have the emergency lights put up and go, oh, okay, so they saw that we had everything that they required. We've had one neighbor that has tried various different methods to get us shut down over the years. And a few years it got pretty they went to the city manager, and then the city manager called all the heads of everybody around, and we got into a big meeting. And so then he got the head fire chief all riled up and all this. So for several years it was a little touch and go. But right now everybody's kind of got our back. And 2 years ago we got a certificate from the city because it was our 28th proclamation and stuff from the city. So we still have our neighbors that will crank. They will call they will call the city on us. We were building some stuff for Midsummer Scream last year for the convention, and our neighbors are going, okay, we have no place in back, so we're building them out in front. And we had some of these big tall towers that were 16 feet in the air, and the neighbors called the city on us. So the city came and said, you got to take it behind the fence. Unless it's September, then you can have it out in front. But up until then, you got to. So the neighbors even try all year round to get us, in trouble. So
and we do our best to try to be aware of the impact on them. So closing down early, stopping to use power tools at 8 o'clock or something like a reasonable time, where it's not going to be. Try to limit the impact as much as possible on them.
Yeah. Do you actually go through the process of soaking and spraying everything with fire retardant and doing that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good, responsible haunters. I like it.
Well, I'm always afraid. I mean, right now the fire department's being really good, so I might, there's always the times you think, oh, well, I may not have to, because it's a lot of money to do it and stuff. But the one time I don't do it, they'll change our fire inspector and we'll be screwed. And so I mean, was it last year or year before? We had a whole bunch of bushes and stuff like that. You have to go spray that sucker 5 times, and then you got to go check and make sure each branch is not still, because we found out that there's certain branches off of trees that contain more oil, that you have to treat them 6 times more than other branches. So I found out a whole lot.
The first year we did fire treating, it was Wizard of Oz. And so we had the farmhouse. So across the sidewalk, we had a row of corn stalks. And there was a farm nearby that we actually bought corn stalks from. And so we're sitting there, and they're all dried out. So I figured, how flammable are these? So I held a match to one of the corn stalk, and it blew up instantly. Okay, we'll try fire coating. Yeah. So we sprayed it with a fire retardant and let it soak in, and sprayed it again, and it dried. And it was all nice and dry, and we stuck a match to it, and it would burn a little bit with a match on it, but as soon as you took the match away, the flames would go out. So the stuff really does work, and that's the test. It's okay if it burns. It just can't burn by itself.
Yeah.
Keep burning.
I'm imagining this dried out Christmas tree that me and my friends, when we were kids, we were screwing around, and we're like, yeah, they're always saying these things are going to catch on fire. That's BS. So we put a lighter to it, and the thing went because it was it was brown at that point. So, I mean, all the pine needles were brown, but it just went we were like, holy shit, like we couldn't believe how fast it went up. And then we're like, that's why it burns down houses. So there you go.
We've actually trained our fire department because our fire department has never done, up until us, they have never had to worry. They didn't worry about haunted houses. We kind of threw them into a monkey wrench. And so they never had a permit or any of that kind of stuff. They started it up with us. And so they didn't know anything about fireproof black plastic or any of that stuff. And so we went through the second year and it says, okay, this is what we're going to use. We had some black plastic we're going to use for ceiling. I took a sample of it and gave them the specs and all this. They're going, oh, there's really such a thing? So then they started going around to all the other haunted houses that they were shutting down for the black plastic and saying, oh, go over there and have, talk to them. They know where to go get it. So they were sending all the other Burbank haunts that were getting shut down to us so they could get the right plastic so they could reopen.
Now, these were home haunts?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many other haunts are there in the area?
Not that many, but
used to be maybe 8 or 10 around, but it's gone up and down over the years. There's 3 or 4, maybe only 2 now.
Well, there's some other. There's like 2 or 3 major ones.
What are their names?
There's Backwoods Maze, and then there's more of like a show that's over on Pepper Street. Or not Pepper Street.
No, can't remember. There's several of them around, but I don't really. There's somebody.
Backwoods Maze is the next. It's kind of like our
second runner-up.
No. But there's somebody else that we belong to the Halloween group Cow Haunts, and somebody else joined that's from Burbank, and I'm going, oh, okay,
Yeah, there's several around.
Yeah.
For a while, there was a whole lot. It was like every other street had some kind of display or walkthrough or something.
But a lot of those went out of business or only lasted a couple of years, and then they folded up.
They just didn't have the dedication, the passion. You got to have that passion. Okay, just bounce back to the 2013 haunt. You also had one of the things I noticed that I really liked, and this is because the first haunted attraction that I ever went through when I was a kid had the upside down room. So I remember going in there and going like, wow. And I don't know, it's not that impressive, but I really liked it, and it brings back that memory of that first haunt I ever went through as a kid. And I like you had the guy or person, the actor who was in there who looked like he was standing on his hands upside down. Yeah. It was like had the upside down costume on, and he jumps down off the table, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool.
That was really actually mentally very hard to work out. Because
it's a lot harder.
We thought
more challenging than it expected.
Yeah, we happened to watch the movie Rose Red, and it has the upside down room. We're like, oh, we could do that. And so let's do that. That should be interesting. So we found we'll get a dining room table and mount it to the ceiling. Okay. Well, did we find a lightweight dining room table? No. Somebody down the road had this really nice dining room table that was heavy as all hell and stuff. And so we hooked it up to the ceiling and put airbags on it, so it jumped up and down. And stuff. But to figure out how this all works and the paneling on the wall, okay, it's got to be the opposite of what normally is. And then when we decided to put the actor in, and it was its feet are actually have to be by its head, and it's and so it got to be. We have never laughed so hard because picture trying to figure out where the head was going to be, which is actually the fake head had to be this crop. So you can picture what happened here. Every time we had to deal with this costume, we were rolling on the ground laughing, and because this guy's got a head right in his crotch and wandering around, and
And I'm sitting there standing the crotch of the pants so that way you can see through it.
Yeah. Yeah. So because the fly is in the pants is where his actual head was, so she had to make sure he could see through it, so he could see where he was going, and that was really exciting.
In the 2014 haunt, you had the House of Fun. Where did you get that? Was that a real bumper car?
She carved it. She carved it out of foam.
Did you really? How did you get it to move all over the place like that?
It was on a furniture dolly.
Oh, so it was just like pushing it around with the feet, or whoever was in the thing.
The Flintstone car.
It seemed so much more high tech. I couldn't wait to find out. I'm like, oh, it's just a dolly.
Built up like a little seat on it, so he had some place to sit down, and then built the foam, like put a platform and built the foam all around it, carved it to make it look like a bumper car, and he just sat there.
Well, the funny part is the first night of the haunt, he went, and the actor that was there, he came in and he's like dripping wet,
totally soaked in sweat.
And he's going, it's so much fun, but it's really getting hard. Well, the wheels had seized up, so he was like working 6 times harder, and we didn't know what he was doing until later on. We happened to see
the second night, actually.
We watched a video, and we didn't realize he was going so far with this little car that we were going. No wonder he's dying.
It was one of those Harbor Freight dollies, I bet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it was. Yeah.
2016, the Not So Enchanted Forest. Well, this was like a twisted fairy tale kind of whatever you call it theme. I really like the Little Red Riding Hood who pops out, has the decapitated wolf head. That was great. There was one point in there that you had some kind of a light effect where it was in the Pigsville area. And it was like this kind of weird scattered red, like light flecks, like that were kind of all over the place. Like, what was that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
One of those standard old crystal lights that you can buy every place in the world now. What do they call it?
The fire and ice?
The fire and ice lights.
Oh, okay.
It was behind
I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah, they sell them at Spirit, but now they sell them at Home Depot and all over the place now. That first year, the ones from Spirit, the first year we bought them, actually have the better light. And in the year we did the House of Fun, the big clown arch that you walked through, we put the fire and ice. We built eyes and put the fire ice in there, and they give off a better light than the ones at Home Depot and stuff. But I don't know if you can still buy them the same way at Spirit or if they've changed them. But our favorite ones are the ones that were from Spirit store. They're more money, of course, but yeah.
I'm ashamed as a haunter that I've never come across that before. I don't know how I've not ever stumbled across that.
Well, they've got really cool because they've got very different colors. They've got green, and then they've got blue, and like we're going to use some of the blue for water effects and stuff like that. And so they've got a lot of different colors now. So they put out some cool effects.
How did you make the? They looked like there was a thatched roof, or almost like grass coming off the walls or down from the ceiling. What was that? Was that real, or was that?
No, it was Hawaiian grass skirts, raffia that you can buy at the party stores, and we just go through and glue that on, and just some hot glue. Just lay the skirt, put a bead of hot glue, and then put the skirt on and press it down, and then cut it off where you need it, and then relayer it.
Unless you're talking about the cave, which was in between the pig and the gingerbread house, and that actually was sod that we bought and let it grow out and then put it on top of a wood framework.
You went out and bought sod.
Yeah.
No kidding. There was a lot of cool like rock work. I'm not sure if it was that haunt or one of your others. How did you go about creating that?
That's pretty much all foam sheets that's cut up. The craggy rocks are big chunks of foam. The kind of stonework is just 1-inch sheets of white styrofoam with the border lines cut into it.
There was an excellent, one of my favorite pneumatics that I've seen in your haunts. There was like a charred body that came out of a brick oven, kind of a cool little thing. I just really dug it,
Yeah,
was there anything special on how that worked?
Well, we picked up the ironwork one place or another. It was really cool. It was It's actually the back end of the chimney. It's how you cleaned out the ashes, but we've used it as the fireplace itself. But that action actually is the same action that we used in the Wisley Manor in the seance room, and it was the same charred body that would come out. It's basically the standard 4-bar action mounted upside down, so it comes out instead of up.
Yeah.
And again, that was all controlled with a proximity controller where the people would walk by and it would come out.
That wasn't a real suit of armor, was it? Or is it some kind of a...
Yeah.
Was it? Where'd you pick that up?
Totally real, but it was metal. It was
replica.
A fixed piece. It was a display piece. It wasn't. Yeah.
We had a friend that had it, and he used to have a haunt over in Pasadena, and he has a bunch of stuff, and he says, "I've got a suit of armor," because we were going to try to make one. And in fact, we did one year. We did make one. One of our actors was in a suit of armor, and he made it himself.
He was a Tin Man in the Wizard of Oz.
He was also a suit of armor.
Yeah.
And so he had already made it, but we needed one, and so this guy loaned us the suit of armor. We borrowed it a couple times, but I think he sold it now, so we're screwed the next time.
Yeah, there was a great. I think in your portal haunt, they had you had a really great prop up. It was like a bloody smile face that pops up, and the steam or fog shoots out. Another prop that I really liked. Was it a mechanism you built? Did you buy it?
Is that the bicycle pump?
Was that all it was?
Well, we've used various things over the years, and I think that was pretty much a standard, just straight up hooked to the cylinder directly.
You just popped it right up.
Yeah. One of the best. I had my first trash can trauma that I made, which was pretty much it was definitely my first pneumatic prop that I ever got into. I remember seeing it for the first time, and I was like, "Oh my God, I have to find this thing." I offered, some guy had a video on YouTube, and I asked him, "Hey, how much would you make one for?" And he's like, "You can just make it yourself." He's like, "I'm too busy. I just built this for me." And then I went through and tried to figure out the process. Now, at that point, I wasn't into using real cylinders. I was looking on the monsters list where everything was like a solenoid that was pulled out of a washing machine, hooked up to like a piece of PVC that you drilled a hole into, and you play all that nonsense that would explode and probably kill someone. But I did build from a Huffy bike pump that I grabbed from Home Depot, and I plugged it. I'm telling you, the action on that was unbelievable. I had used just one of those green plastic trash cans with the plastic top, and I had it hooked up where I cable tied 2 pieces on the lid, and I used just like a little bungee cord on the inside to pull it back down when it popped up. But the thing would blow out with so much force. It was like the best startle pop ever. And I finally, I bought like a more heavy duty one off of Brent from DC Props. And it just wasn't the same. It's like great. And it does things the other thing couldn't do, like it could make it bounce up and down, like you can make the body kind of come up and jerk around. You couldn't do that with the bike pump. But I'll tell you, that for that $8 bike pump,
well,
I got more mileage out of that thing. So
we still use ours. It was one of our first builds with Calhounts. We joined the Calhounts group. It was one of the first builds that they did that after we joined, and we still occasionally will pull it out, and we know that it's probably not all that safe, but it's worked all these years, so we haven't killed anybody yet. So
yet. There was a skeleton horse that kind of raises up and then drops back down again, and you had the legs even kind of were on hinges or something. And how did that whole mechanism work?
That's actually the horse from Home Depot.
Yeah.
And the one that they sold. and we actually corpsed it, and we were using it. We had bought it for our hearse that we no longer have, and so then we had corpsed it and used it at Midsummer Scream, and he had put pneumatics in it to make it raise.
You build a steel frame with a big air cylinder on it so it would go up and down.
What stroke?
It's about a 14-inch stroke, and had cable tying it to the arm that makes it go up and down. And so it's actually fairly simple action on it.
Well, for the view from the video, I'm sure that also it seems like it's going up higher than it probably does, but it does. You know, the appearance that I got, it said it was like, wow, that's really getting some lift, and it's probably a couple of feet.
No, it went up about 4 foot.
Oh, it did. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was almost straight up and down when about 45 degrees when it was up. So that the head was up probably 9 or 10 feet.
It was up higher when he first built it, but then we had we made it for Midsummer Scream, and we wanted the Headless Horseman on it, and the Headless Horseman was falling off, so we had to change it a little bit. And figuring, okay, that guy couldn't stay on if it was that way, so we had to lower it down a little bit. And then didn't you have something for the legs so they would move too?
Yeah.
You had some pneumatics there.
Is there also a trigger that fires that, or do you have somebody hitting a button in the room?
Yeah, that was actually run by the guy in the control center, because you could see the people come in on video screen, and when they get to a certain point, he hit the horse.
The benevolent Oz.
Yes.
Behind the curtain. I used to be that guy. I used to hide in my my kitchen, and I'd have like 2 or 3 pneumatics out the front door, and I would just hit the buttons as people walked through.
Yeah.
I probably had more fun doing that than actually being out as an actor, like running around scaring people. But there was also a really cool grandfather clock costume. Was that all made out of like EVA foam?
No, well, it was basic structure was actually just poster board.
Foam core?
It was just foam core poster board. And with a little, we ended up having to add a little bit of wood structure after a couple of days of running it because it started to kind of fall apart. But yeah, it was just foam core boards with half-inch white beaded foam on top of it to kind of give it the layers and the dimensions.
And pool noodles, was it for the arms?
Yeah, the arms were pool noodles that were cut and stretched out. And all the rest of the whole head was just nothing but that foam core board.
Now that was in Kilpetto's. I'm trying to think of what else was in there that really stuck out at me. Well, you had this whole section that was in there that you had, it looked like some kind of grating, and then it turned into almost what looked like a prison cell. What did you use for that?
Yeah.
You know, it was like towards the exit, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'd acquired that from a studio that was throwing stuff away, and just a big steel, like a equipment cage. And it's got a door in it, so we've used it for several different things, and it's one of the things that we have out in storage that we have in case we need it.
Constantly getting repurposed.
It got mangled in the flood, but we managed to rebend it back together. So
yeah, no. I heard you mention the flood earlier. Did you have some issues with your haunt?
Our haunt storage, where we keep our stuff, 2 years ago, it hit by a flash flood, and there was 5 feet of water that went through our haunt area where we keep everything. So we lost our horse-drawn hearse. We lost quite a bit of stuff that just it picked up cargo containers that had stuff in it, and they came down and landed on some of our stuff, like the metal cage and stuff. When they moved the cargo container, our metal cage was underneath it, along with some other things. And the force of the water that came through, it just totally moved. We have all of our walls all screwed together, so they're all kind of stationed, and so we don't have to worry about them blowing over. It actually literally picked up like a 20-foot long stack of walls and shoved them like 5 feet or 6 feet.
We found some of our stuff like a half a mile downstream.
Yeah. Some of our floors and stuff like this were mile downstream. That as we're driving up to see how bad the damage was, we're going, isn't that one of our walls? Isn't that one of our floors? Isn't that, stuff just went all over the place. And we lost, a lot of stuff. It took us months. Well, it happened right after the 1st of August, and we spent all of August, every spare minute out there, washing everything down, digging stuff out for a long time. Then we found out, then we had bees that embedded in the walls, killer bees. So then we had to deal with the bees and had to have bee people come out and get rid of the bees because we all got stung. And stuff. So that was the only year that we thought we weren't going to do the haunt. That was the year of the portal. And we thought, no, we just, it was 105 out there, and the humidity because of all the wet and the damp, it was unbelievable. We were all getting sick, and we had thought, no, we're just not going to do the haunt. And what we had to do is we had to move everything out of that area so they could regrade it and push everything back. And so
hose it all down because it was all under a foot or more of mud.
Yeah, everything was full of mud. Everything. That's why I said we have an organ there that it's never been pulled out. We pulled it out and cleaned it off as much as we could. But as we're finding out, the mud is still stuck there on so many things that we thought we had cleaned very well. We brought over some stuff last year that I'm going, what is with all this mud still? I thought we got all of it out of here. And so we thought, okay, we need to, we're going to have to pull all this stuff out and push it all back when they get done. And we should do the responsible thing. We have two choices. We can do the responsible thing and not do Halloween and deal with this mess, or we can do the irresponsible thing and do Halloween. So we chose do Halloween. And so so we decided that's how the portal came about, is you were going to hell. We decided since we were in hell, we decided that's how that theme came up, is we decided we were...
You'll bring others with you. Everybody could join in your hell.
And we had the sound of the bees in there, so we incorporated some of the haunt stuff and stuff. We had the sound of the bees because of what we had just gone through with the bees and everything, so it was all in there.
We do have a whole new appreciation for people that have been through floods and lost their houses in floods.
Yeah. Yes.
It is probably almost the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah.
So what do you guys have going on with the Midsummer Scream this year? What are you guys up to?
Well, this year's theme for Midsummer Scream is Tiki Terror. And so we're in the process of building volcanoes, and we're building an airplane. And for the display, we're going to try to build a talking tiki and various different things. We'll have a temple, and it's quite an ordeal that we're working on right now. Right now, we've already built about 30 or 40 walls for it, and
this is for cow haunts.
Yeah,
Hall of Shadows
So
entrance.
is this you're building a haunt inside the con? Is that what you're doing?
More or less. Part of Midsummer, you have a place that's called the Hall of Shadows, which there is, last year there was like 12 or 13 mini haunts in there. And last year we had decided to do something different. The first year we just did a little display on both sides, and that was it. Last year we decided to add a little bit more, because we do the entrance as you go into the Hall of Shadow. Cow Haunts does the entrance
from the trade floor,
right? And it all gets built here because we have most of the equipment, so that's why everybody comes here. And Cow Haunts, we have a great group of Cow Haunts people that get together. We'll be here just about every weekend. They'll be working, and they worked every weekend last year building this thing. And last year's theme was Frankenstein. So we built all Frankenstein's lab, and you actually walked down through the Frankenstein's lab and stuff like that. So this year you'll walk into the jungle area or and where there'll be cannibals and all that kind of stuff in there.
All right. So where can people find you on, Facebook, Twitter? Where are you guys on as far as social media?
We're on Facebook at Rotten Apple 907. And we're on Instagram. It's the same, Rotten Apple 907.
We have Twitter too.
We have Twitter technically, but we don't
use it. You got a YouTube channel?
Yes, we have a YouTube channel, Rotten Apple 907 as well.
And RottenApple907.com.
Yeah, we have the website
for the dates for this 2019 season. And what everyone should do if they have not done this yet is go check out Epic Home Haunts. Yes. And you can see you prominently featured throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, that movie's an awesome movie. I mean, Josh and Katie worked real hard to try to film what really goes on and stuff like that. And they live up north, and they came down every single, tons of weekends filming us for a couple years, us and all the other, people that were in there. So they put a lot of hard work and dedication into that.
The best movie about home haunters I've seen.
Yes,
granted, there's only a couple, but it is the best of the ones I've seen.
I mean, we're in another one, but this is the one that we really, appreciate. The other one was good too. I mean, it has its moments. I don't particularly care for part of it, but this one is really about home haunters.
It does us well.
Yes.
All right, great. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys taking the time, spending a few minutes with us here in the dungeon so we can hear your story.
Glad to do it.
I'm motivated now. I'm ready to build. Let's go build something.
Yes.
All right, take care.
Okay, you too.
Are you satisfied now, you fools?
Thanks, y'all, for making Hauntcast part of your haunt diet. Scream outs go out to Brent Wilson for supplying music from his band Radon, and to all of our Patreon and Subscribe Star supporters. Donald Keith, Dan Gannell, James Slanker, Rudolph Enemoto, Goth Kitty Lady, Don Dolshall, Jean-Francois Pomeroy, Imagineer of Fear, Douglas Kabarek, Scott Messinger, Brain Company, Mike Sudsey, Stephen Dolshall, Wes Campbell, Brent Wilson, Ron Knobloch, Roy John Holland, Stephen Garrett, Evil Deb, Greg Wallace, Tim Fowler, Craig Maines, Joe Hodges, Russell Lee, Daniel Hoffman, Rich Barron, Robert Sosak, Nelson Barros, Ann Mann, Devlin Hyde, Justin Krasomensky, Kristen Arendt, Michael Head, Lisa Holman, Cindy Noyes, Christopher Reeves, James McLarty, Warren Maxwell, Daniel Wendorf, Scott Santana, Linda Marshall, Mark Constable, Dick Shepard, Chris Caines, Jim Transu, Mike Blumhoff, Randy Eveland, Teresa Meredith, Oliver White, Bob Vaillancourt, John Farmer, Robert Cole, Steve Davis, Mason Johnson, Crawford Hampson, Jacob Bauer, Ron Gleaves, Steve Uas, Jen Daigle, David Freeman, Garrett Wiseman, Matt Murfeld, Chris Davis, Barbara Richards, Eric Curtis, and David O'Neill. Also to Mark Muncy and Carrie Schultz, the author and illustrator of Eerie, Florida and Freaky, Florida, who are supplying us with a copy of each to give away to 2 lucky minions who have subbed up with at least $10 a month. Scully, dip your stinky pinkies in the cauldron and pick out some winners. The winner of the Freaky Florida book is Russell Lee. The winner for Eerie, Florida is Dan Wendorf. The winner of the DC prop building book is Imagineer of Fear, whoever the hell that is. And the winner of the Terror Syndicate prop building book is Nick Shepard. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. All right, guys, we're going to send you out an email. Reply with your shipping address, and we will send those out via the snail mail. Once again, you can qualify for the prize giveaways each month by supporting us either on Patreon, Subscribe Star, or on PayPal for at least $10 a month. Go to subscribestar.com/hauntcast, patreon.com/hauntcast, or chris@hauntcast.net. By the way, that email account is good for PayPal, but it is not good to send me emails. So if you want to send me harassing hate mail, please send it to my new email address, which is huntcast@mail.com. If you have to do the bare minimum, at least $2 a month will make Scully not hate you. $5 a month, Scully will warm up to you. $10 a month, Scully will kind of like you and possibly pull your name out of the cauldron for a prize. Go all the way up to $40 a month and earn a Huntcast t-shirt, coffee mug, and oral from Scully.
Hey, I didn't agree to that.
Scully, read the fine print of your contract.
I knew I should have consulted a lawyer.
Anyway, the Scream team will sliver back out of the muck and into your blackened dead hearts on June 7th. As the weather is warming, we can finally take off our pants and start working on our projects out in our backyards. Well, maybe that's just me. So until the next time we convene, you better have made some progress on your 2019 haunt, or I'm gonna send Bob Cole over to your house to kick you in the asphalt. Until then, the dungeon is closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast.
But I can't leave them, I can't. Yes, go. You live.
I'm going now. Heaven help you.